The story begins with our main character, Sakamoto, appearing in a building armed with a sword and a gun. Suddenly, an explosion shook the structure, revealing a group of assassins determined to kill him. Spotting Sakamoto, they opened fire. With unmatched skill, Sakamoto swiftly deflected all the bullets with his sword before charging at them. He struck the first assassin with a slash, causing blood to spray onto another gang member. He then shot the second man from behind. Two more assassins approached, but Sakamoto quickly strangled one and shot the other. As the rest of the gang attacked with machine guns, he effortlessly dodged the hail of bullets, returning fire and taking them out one by one. Eventually, only one survivor remained, frantically searching for him. Sakamoto appeared unexpectedly, aimed at the last man, and swiftly ended the confrontation. Afterward, Sakamoto abandoned his criminal life, choosing a peaceful path. While shopping one day, he encountered a beautiful woman whose charm captivated him. Falling in love, he decided to leave his past behind. They married, had a child, and Sakamoto opened a shop, devoting himself to his family and peaceful living. One day, Shin, a former gang associate, came looking for Sakamoto. Meanwhile, at the shop, Sakamoto played with a young boy who frequently visited. The boy attempted to hit a target drawn on the glass with a toy arrow but missed. As the boy prepared for another try, some school supplies spilled from his bag, staining a customer's clothes with ink. The man, angered by the mishap, grabbed the boy by his shirt and berated him. Sakamoto watched calmly as the man continued yelling. When the boy accidentally dirted the man's clothes again, the customer raised his hand to strike him. Sakamoto intervened, briefly imagining subduing the man with a pen but refrained from acting. The man insulted Sakamoto for his weight before storming out of the shop. The boy, in tears, thanked Sakamoto for protecting him, and Sakamoto's wife and daughter comforted him. Soon after, Shin appeared in the shop, praising Sakamoto's speed and restraint. Shin, who had the ability to read minds, noted that Sakamoto could have easily defeated the man earlier. Sakamoto briefly imagined striking Shin, but Shin, reading his thoughts, scolded him for it and reminded him of their past partnership. He emphasized his loyalty to Sakamoto. Sakamoto served food to Shin, who then asked if he had truly left his life of crime and killing behind, and if opening the shop marked the start of a new chapter. Shin pointed out that Sakamoto had gained significant weight and urged him to return to his former ways. Sakamoto, however, replied that he was no longer the same person. Shin reminisced about Sakamoto's powerful past, highlighting the fear and respect he commanded among leaders. Frustrated, Shin insisted that Sakamoto should reclaim his former glory, but Sakamoto ignored him and continued eating. Exasperated, Shin mentioned that Sakamoto used to eat street food and never indulged in such refined meals, hinting at how much he had changed. Lighting a cigarette, Shin prepared to smoke, but Sakamoto snatched the cigarette before he could light it, pointing to a no smoking sign nearby. Shin was taken aback by Sakamoto's strength and realized the gesture was more than just enforcing a rule, it was a subtle warning. It conveyed that Sakamoto could eliminate him with ease if he wanted to. While Shin was still processing this, a man on a bicycle approached. Sakamoto greeted him warmly and asked if he needed help. Shin was surprised to see Sakamoto aiding others, a far cry from the fearsome figure he remembered. The man explained that a tree in his yard had grown too large, with its branches sprawling uncontrollably. Accompanying the man to his home, Sakamoto swiftly pruned the tree with incredible speed, leaving Shin stunned. Shortly after, a woman approached Sakamoto, explaining that her daughter refused to eat. Sakamoto resolved the issue effortlessly, feeding the little girl and calming the mother's worries. Later, he encountered two crying children fighting over a single ball. Each wanted it for themselves. To settle the argument, Sakamoto split the ball in half, giving each child a piece, which resolved their dispute. Shin, growing increasingly frustrated with Sakamoto's peaceful lifestyle, accused him of hiding his true self behind acts of kindness. He bluntly told Sakamoto that his current appearance was disgraceful and announced his departure. Just as he was leaving, a small child playfully threw a toy arrow at Shin's head and ran off. Shin, visibly annoyed, scolded the child before heading to his car. As Shin drove, he reflected on how he hadn't seen Sakamoto in 5 years. He noted Sakamoto's significant weight gain, but also acknowledged that his speed and strength remained unmatched. Despite his frustration, Shin felt a glimmer of happiness and secretly hoped they could work together again. His excitement led him to hit his head repeatedly on the car's dashboard, shaking the vehicle and alarming pedestrians who fled in panic. Shortly afterward, Shin received a call from his boss. The boss asked if Shin had convinced Sakamoto to return to their gang. When Shin said no, the boss asked if he had killed Sakamoto instead. Shin replied that he hadn't, explaining that Sakamoto was now overweight and posed no threat. Angered, the boss reminded Shin of their gang's rules. Anyone who retires must be eliminated. He warned that if Shin didn't kill kill Sakamoto, someone else would be sent to do it, and Shin would be killed as well. Overwhelmed, Shin ended the call abruptly. Returning home, Shin tried to distract himself. He bought supplies, took a bath, ate, and lay in bed, deep in thought about his boss's ultimatum. He realized that if he didn't act, someone else would harm Sakamoto. Gripping his weapon, Shin resolved to handle the matter himself. As he prepared, memories of their past battles together surfaced, reminding him of Sakamoto's strength and loyalty. The next day, Shin visited Sakamoto at his shop, claiming he was leaving the country and wanted to say goodbye. Suddenly, Shin drew his gun and fired at Sakamoto. However, Sakamoto deflected the bullet midair, using a hard candy from his mouth, altering its trajectory and avoiding harm. In the next instant, Sakamoto vanished from sight, leaving Shin searching the store in vain. Unable to read Sakamoto's thoughts, Shin became increasingly frustrated. Suddenly, Sakamoto distracted him by tossing a pack of chocolates, forcing Shin to shift his focus. Using candy as improvised projectiles, Sakamoto launched several rapid strikes, mimicking bullets. Shin skillfully dodged them all, retreating and leaping to gain distance. As Shin raised his gun to fire again, Sakamoto hurled a pack of pastries at him, disrupting his aim once more. Shin paused to locate Sakamoto, but was caught off guard when Sakamoto appeared behind him, delivering a single, powerful blow that knocked him unconscious. Just before losing consciousness, Shin caught a glimpse of Sakamoto as he had been in the past, strong, precise, and fearsome. Shin woke up in an unfamiliar home to see Sakamoto's daughter, observing him curiously. She quickly called for her mother, who informed her that their guest was awake. Surprised by the warm and domestic setting, Shin noticed Sakamoto's wife preparing a large meal. She asked him how much rice he wanted, and he modestly replied that he didn't need much. Suspicious, Shin initially thought the food might be poisoned but reassured himself that he could handle it. When he began eating, the delicious taste overwhelmed him. Reluctantly, he admitted he had never eaten anything so good and complimented the food, calling it excellent. Sakamoto's wife chuckled and remarked that Shin's reaction reminded her of how Sakamoto used to be in the past. Meanwhile, Sakamoto was nearby, busy feeding his daughter. Shin observed the scene and reflected on the peaceful and happy life Sakamoto had chosen. As Shin prepared to leave, Sakamoto escorted him outside. Embarrassed, Shin thanked him for the meal. Sakamoto pointed to a sign on his shop that read, "We hope to see you again." Back at the gang's hideout, the boss confronted Shin, demanding to know if he had killed Sakamoto. Shin remained silent, prompting the boss to berate him for disobedience, calling it a disgrace. Shin pleaded with the boss to leave Sakamoto alone, explaining that he had a family now and was no longer a threat. The boss, unimpressed, mocked Shin's loyalty and laughed at his request. Shin, determined to protect Sakamoto, even offered to sacrifice himself in exchange for sparing his former partner's life. The boss coldly dismissed the gesture, suggesting Shin kill himself if he truly wanted to save Sakamoto. However, the boss secretly intended to target Sakamoto regardless. Reading the boss's thoughts, Shin realized the betrayal and declared he had never trusted him, revealing his ability to hear thoughts. Shocked, the boss ordered his gang members to kill Shin. Gunfire erupted as the gang attacked, but Shin retaliated swiftly. At his shop, Sakamoto was eavesdropping on the conversation, using a listening device. Realizing Shin was in danger, Sakamoto transformed his peaceful shop into a makeshift armory, selecting a weapon and preparing for battle. Meanwhile, Shin managed to take down 4 gang members. One attempted to ambush him from behind, but Shin appeared behind him first, delivering a devastating kick to the neck that knocked him out. Another gang member aimed a heavy weapon at Shin, but Shin, reading his thoughts, dodged the attack effortlessly. The boss regrouped with the remaining gang members, scolding them for their failure to handle a single person. But before he could issue another command, an ominous presence loomed in the shadows. Sakamoto had arrived, ready to intervene. The boss explained that Shin was a psychic who could read their thoughts, instructing the gang members to attack from a distance to avoid detection. They surrounded Shin, limiting his options. Realizing he had only 1 magazine of bullets left, Shin quickly strategized his next move. Launching another attack, Shin managed to kill 2 more gang members, but a stray bullet struck his leg, immobilizing him. The gang encircled him, aiming their weapons, leaving Shin in a state of shock as he faced imminent danger. Just in time, Sakamoto arrived, using his unparalleled skill to incapacitate the gang members surrounding Shin. With precise movements, he knocked them to the ground one by one. The gang leader spotted Sakamoto and immediately ordered his men to kill him. The gang launched a coordinated attack, but Sakamoto countered with unmatched dexterity. Wielding only a pair of chopsticks, he swiftly disarmed and defeated several gang members. When one fired at him, Sakamoto caught the bullets with his chopsticks, attackers, then moved behind the shooter, grabbing and hurling him into 2 other attackers. 2 gang members opened fire with machine guns, but Sakamoto deflected their bullets using 2 pens, then threw the pens at them with lethal precision. Leaping into the air, Sakamoto grabbed a long rope and landed forcefully on 2 more gang members, kicking them down. Using the rope, he tied up 2 attackers and flung them aside. Sakamoto dashed toward another gang member, snatching his weapon just as another attacker lunged at him with a knife. He avoided the blade effortlessly and knocked the attacker out with a single punch. Seeing this, the gang leader frantically ordered his men to shoot Sakamoto simultaneously. As the hail of bullets rained down, Sakamoto revealed a sharp weapon, dodging the shots with incredible speed. He destroyed the leader's gun and swiftly eliminated the remaining attackers with flawless precision. Shin, astonished by Sakamoto's actions, asked how he had managed to locate him. Sakamoto picked up Shin's gun and revealed a listening device he had planted earlier, showcasing his foresight. Shin, impressed, admitted that Sakamoto was always one step ahead. Before Shin could finish his thought, Sakamoto cut him off by tossing him a work shirt and declaring that he would now be working at the shop. The scene shifted to the store, where Sakamoto and Shin were dressed in their work uniforms. Shin grumbled that Sakamoto should stop eating near him, pointing out that the noodles were almost finished because of him. Sakamoto's wife and daughter arrived, and the child ran happily to Shin, hugging him tightly. Later, Shin helped an elderly woman find what she was looking for in the store. A child then asked Shin to play, but Shin explained he was busy and would join after completing his tasks. Curious, the child asked if Shin enjoyed his new job. Shin hesitated, replying that he wasn't sure, but it was better than his previous one. The child pressed further, asking about Shin's previous job. Reading Sakamoto's thoughts, Shin realized Sakamoto was silently threatening him not to reveal the truth. Nervously, Shin told the child that he used to work as a cleaner. Sakamoto glanced at Shin and continued eating his food without a word. Shin resumed restocking shelves and assisting customers, performing his tasks exceptionally well. When Sakamoto passed by, Shin couldn't help but comment on the last battle, marveling at Sakamoto's combat skills. Despite his significant weight gain, Sakamoto, visibly irritated, told Shin to stop talking and get back to work. However, Shin persisted, expressing admiration for how impressive Sakamoto had been during the fight. Sakamoto's wife overheard the conversation and questioned him, asking if he had returned to fighting. Sakamoto immediately denied it, but she reminded him of the rule in their marriage. If he ever returned to combat, it would lead to their divorce. Sakamoto reassured her that he remembered the rule. Curious, Shin asked what the rule was. Sakamoto imagined eliminating Shin in frustration, causing Shin to feel a sudden sharp pain. Yelling at Sakamoto to stop doing that, Shin quickly backed off. Angry, Sakamoto told Shin to keep quiet. Later, Sakamoto and Shin headed to Chinatown. Shin was amazed by the vibrant surroundings and asked if they were there to buy supplies for the store. Noticing Sakamoto purchasing pork, Shin inquired about it. Sakamoto explained it was for his wife and daughter. Shin mused aloud that Sakamoto must deeply love his family and once again asked about the marriage rule. Sakamoto ignored him and kept walking. While they were in Chinatown, a young girl named Oh accidentally broke a window from a nearby building and fell, landing on Sakamoto and spilling the bag of meat he had bought. Furious, Sakamoto stared at the ruined pork. Shin tried to console him, suggesting they could clean it and still use it, but Sakamoto dismissed the idea, declaring it ruined. Before they could leave, a group of men chasing Oh arrived. The girl prepared herself to face them. Shin suggested they leave immediately to avoid getting involved, but Sakamoto, still angry about the ruined meal, replied that they had spoiled his daughter's dinner. Shin tried reasoning with him, saying it wasn't the right time, but Sakamoto remained firm. One of the men taunted Oh, asking if she thought she could escape like a cat by jumping out of windows. Oh confidently declared she didn't flee from men who were mere puppets. 2 men attacked her, but she swiftly kicked one and defeated the other. 3 more attackers remained, and one suggested surrounding her to prevent any escape. Oh leaped over one of them, striking him from behind, and then delivered a brutal beating to another. Shin watched in amazement at her strength. Oh threw the last man into a nearby dumpster. A large man from the group grabbed Oh from behind, restraining her arms. Another gang member approached, brandishing a knife and threatening to stab her. Another suggested they torture her first, smirking as he proposed to start by cutting her legs so she couldn't escape again. Just as he prepared to act, Sakamoto intervened, breaking the knife with a food utensil and sending the man holding holding it to the ground. Shin used his bag to strike the man restraining Oh, freeing her. Another gang member drew a gun and ordered them not to move, but Oh acted swiftly, striking the man's hands and causing him to drop the weapon. She knocked him to the ground. Shin, still in disbelief, wondered who this girl could be. Meanwhile, Sakamoto looked mournfully at his spilled pork. The remaining gang members, determined to capture Oh, launched an attack. Sakamoto quickly picked up Oh and ran, dodging gunfire. The gang struggled to keep up and eventually gave up due to exhaustion. At the gang's hideout, one of the men who had chased Oh pleaded with their leader, Dan, explaining that two men had helped her escape. Enraged, Dan scolded him for letting her slip away again and struck him with his staff, reminding him that he had killed an entire clan to capture her. Dan dismissed the men, but as he turned to leave, the gang's swordsman, Beato, stepped forward and decapitated him. The brutal act left everyone in the room paralyzed with fear. Beato, holding the severed head, pretended to stifle its complaints, joking with Dan. His brother stepped forward, sternly warning Beato not to joke about such serious matters and calling him a fool. He added that the taste of the situation wasn't pleasant. Dan addressed the two brothers, emphasizing the importance of capturing the girl. Oh, he explained that the key she possessed was crucial as it would grant them control over the black market. He ordered them to find her at all costs. B confidently stated that anyone who stood in their way would be killed. Dan gave his approval, telling them to do whatever was necessary. Meanwhile, Oh, Shin, and Sakamoto continued running. Shin questioned Oh about what was happening to her. She revealed that she was the daughter of a major mafia boss, and that the men chasing her wanted the key she carried. While jumping from rooftop to rooftop, she showed Shin the key. Shin suggested she hand over the key to save herself from trouble, but Oh refused. She explained that the key opened a vault containing all her family's treasures. Her father had entrusted it to her, and she recalled her mother tying the key around her neck while her father fought off enemies. Her parents had urged her to escape to ensure the key wouldn't fall into the wrong hands. Oh vowed never to give it away, asking Shin what she could possibly say to her father when they met in the afterlife if she failed to protect it. Oh apologized for burdening them and thanked them for their help before leaping away to distance herself. Shin tried to follow her, but Sakamoto grabbed him and stopped him. Sakamoto turned to Oh and asked if she could cook pork. Oh replied that her father had taught her how to prepare it and that she was capable. Sakamoto declared to Shin that their shopping trip was over and that they would solve Oh's problem. He made a deal with Oh, promising to take care of the gang if she agreed to cook pork for them afterward. Before Shin could respond, he sensed an incoming attack and tried to warn Sakamoto. However, it was too late. B delivered a powerful kick to Sakamoto's face, knocking him back and surrounding him inside the adjacent building with the gang. Shin grew increasingly worried about Sakamoto. Lu approached him, acknowledging how dire the situation had become. Meanwhile, Sun mocked B, commenting that his strikes had become weak. B dismissed the criticism, saying the initial blows didn't matter to him as he relished the thrill of killing and disposing of bodies. Sun retorted that even B's killing style had deteriorated. Confused, Shin asked who these two were. Lu explained that they were B and Sun, hired assassins who, regardless of the payment, found immense pleasure in killing their targets. They were relentless, never failing to capture their prey. Afterward, they would draw portraits of their victims as a twisted hobby, a testament to their deeply unhinged minds. B casually remarked to Sun that they had become quite famous, asking if that wasn't a good thing. Sun disagreed, saying that as killers, they should avoid drawing attention. At that moment, Shin launched an attack on Sun, attempting to strike him. Sun effortlessly blocked the blow and mockingly asked if Shin was angry over the supposed death of his friend. Shin confidently replied that Sun was foolish to think his friend could die and stepped back, declaring that no one truly understood Sakamoto's strength as a warrior. Sun scoffed, dismissing Shin as a child. Meanwhile, B moved stealthily toward Lu from behind, aiming to strike her with his sword. Before he could land the blow, Sakamoto arrived in time, delivering a devastating punch to B's face. The force sent B crashing into the ground, splitting the floor and causing him to fall to the lower level. Sun, watching casually, commented on Sakamoto's impressive punch, and B replied that the building was old and easy to damage. Turning his attention to Lu, Sun addressed her mockingly, asking if she would hand over the key, promising to kill her gently afterward. Lu stood her ground firmly, stating that the key was her only inheritance from her father and that she would never part with it. Sun dismissed her words as outdated, questioning why she would risk her life for something as insignificant as a key. Lu, enraged, yelled at Sun to be quiet and charged at him in anger. Before she could reach him, Sakamoto intercepted her and threw her back to prevent her from acting recklessly. Furious at being stopped, Lu glared at Sakamoto, but Shin interjected, advising advising her not to let their words provoke her into losing control. Lu turned to Shin and explained that the vault the key unlocked contained all her ancestors' possessions. She shared that her father had died protecting it and had been killed by these very fools. As she spoke, Sun suddenly hurled a knife at her, but Sakamoto caught it midair, saving her just in time. Sun glared at Sakamoto, warning him not to interfere and suggesting he should have let the knife strike Lu, allowing her to reunite with her parents in death. Sakamoto, unfazed, replied firmly, "No one here can give me orders." Lu turned to Sakamoto and asked why he wanted to help her. At that moment, Sakamoto's mind drifted to a memory from his past. He recalled returning home to his wife after purchasing a gift for her. When he arrived, his wife asked why he was late. Sakamoto explained that he had been working. Suspecting the truth, she pressed him, asking if it was his usual line of work, killing. He admitted that he had to complete the job so he could buy her the gift. His wife refused the present, saying it was tainted with blood just like his face. She told him there was no point in continuing their relationship and that they should part ways. Overwhelmed, she stepped off the edge of the building. Sakamoto, horrified, caught her midair and they embraced as they fell together. Emerging from the icy sphere, his wife admitted she had misjudged the height from the building to the ground. She approached Sakamoto and told him that someday he might lose her and understand the pain of such a loss. She reminded him that everyone has someone they love and don't want to lose. She asked him to promise that he would stop fighting and focus instead on helping others. The memory faded and Sakamoto returned to the present. Shin, deeply moved by the story, looked at Sakamoto with sadness. Sakamoto then turned to Shin and firmly stated, "That's my rule. I don't kill." The two brothers, Sun and Bato, launched a coordinated attack on Sakamoto and Shin. Bato aimed several strikes at Sakamoto, but none of them landed. Sun followed up by attacking Sakamoto with his weapon, but Sakamoto skillfully blocked all his blows. Meanwhile, Bato turned his attention to Shin, attempting to land a hit, but Shin evaded him. Shin tried to counter with a kick, but it was ineffective. On the other side, Sun threw a barrage of knives at Sakamoto, but Sakamoto dodged every single one. Frustrated, Sun hurled another set of knives, but this time Sakamoto caught them mid-air with ease. The brothers regrouped, and Sun asked B if he was thinking what he was. B confirmed with a smirk. They launched a flurry of rapid, synchronized strikes at Sakamoto, but their efforts were in vain as Sakamoto avoided all their attacks without taking a scratch. Shin approached Sakamoto to check on him, asking if he was okay. Sakamoto reassured him that he was fine, though he admitted his muscles felt a bit stiff. Sun, frustrated and confused, asked B how Sakamoto was able to evade all their attacks without even a scratch. Once again, Sun asked B if he was thinking what he was. B confirmed, and they attempted another attack on Sakamoto. This time, Sakamoto delivered a powerful blow to B's head. Enraged, Sun attacked Sakamoto, but Sakamoto broke his weapon with ease, leaving Sun in disbelief. Realizing he couldn't win, Sun decided to capture Lu and escape. However, Shin, who could read Sun's thoughts, intercepted his plan. Shin threw a rope around Sun's neck and yanked him to the ground. Sakamoto then dropped a large refrigerator onto Sun, incapacitating him completely. Lu, stunned by what she had witnessed, asked, "Who are you, really?" Sakamoto, calm and composed, simply replied, "We're just shop workers," as he casually ate a piece of crab. The scene shifted to Dan, fuming in his office as he struck the vault, frustrated by his inability to open it and claim its contents. Moments later, B and Sun were brought in, bound and defeated. Dan, startled, demanded to know who had done this. Before he could react further, Lu appeared behind him, holding a knife to his neck. Dan immediately panicked and begged her for mercy, promising to do whatever she wanted. Lu, her voice cold, told Dan to shut up, reminding him that nothing he could do would bring her father back. With one final blow, she knocked him to the ground. Shin, observing, asked if she was satisfied and joked, "I wouldn't mind adding a few punches myself." Sakamoto, imagining himself silencing Shin permanently, smirked in his mind. Shin noticed and, irritated, told Sakamoto to stop doing that. Sakamoto replied firmly that Shin should stay out of it. Lu, catching her breath, recalled her father's advice not to kill people in the streets, even when they angered her, and to focus on living a happy life. She then turned her attention to the vault. As she opened it, everyone was stunned by the treasure inside. Lu, however, stopped them from entering before her. Shin entered and picked up a book, immediately engrossed in reading it. Meanwhile, Sakamoto sifted through the jewels. Lu grabbed the book from Shin's hands, wondering what her father had left her. She then noticed a letter hanging inside a small container. She opened it and read her father's words. Curious, Shin asked what the letter said. Lu replied that her father had written about the best drink ever and how how grateful he was for it. Shin chuckled and joked, "I hope it's as good as your father claimed." They all sat down on the floor, enjoying a meal of pork together. Lu commented on how everything had been completely shattered because of the events leading up to this moment. Shin teased her, saying it was all her fault. Sakamoto, tasting the pork, declared it was still delicious. Lu tried it herself and agreed, saying it was absolutely excellent. Lu arrived late at Sakamoto's shop, which immediately angered Shin. He confronted her, asking why she was late. Lu dismissed him, saying it was just a small delay. However, Shin retorted angrily, pointing out that being 2 hours late was far from a small delay. Looking at the refrigerator, Shin noticed it was in complete disarray. He criticized Lu, saying she was doing everything wrong. Lu nonchalantly replied that organizing things wasn't that important. Shin, visibly frustrated, remarked that she had no work experience at all. Lu countered with a sarcastic response, saying she used to help her father wrap and bury bodies underground. Shin stormed over to Sakamoto, urging him to fire Lu, claiming she wasn't suited for the job. Lu shrugged off the accusation, reiterating that organizing things wasn't essential. Shin argued back, insisting that the shop's work depended on proper arrangement and order. Sakamoto intervened, telling Shin not to speak to Lu in that manner. He then turned to Lu, calmly asking her to apologize if she was late again in the future. Both Shin and Lu stared at Sakamoto in disbelief, surprised by his unusually calm demeanor. Sakamoto, noticing their reactions, asked why they were looking at him as if they'd seen a ghost. He then instructed Shin to sit with him outside while asking Lu to prepare the pork dishes he had ordered. Shin mentioned that he had never heard Sakamoto talk so much since coming to the shop. Sakamoto replied casually, saying he was simply speaking normally. He then warned Shin to stop babbling so much or he'd kill him. Shin, taken aback, thought to himself about how much Sakamoto had changed, noting that this wasn't his usual way of speaking. Suddenly, another Sakamoto entered the shop, leaving Shin utterly shocked. The original Sakamoto calmly took a seat while the newcomer greeted him before lunging at him with a knife. Sakamoto dodged the attack with ease, countering by placing a weapon at the fake Sakamoto's neck. The imposter backed off, laughing, and revealed his true appearance, greeting Sakamoto as an old acquaintance. He admitted he still had a few tricks up his sleeve, which he was glad to show off. Shin, puzzled, wondered who this man was and why he couldn't read his thoughts. The stranger laughed and apologized for the earlier attack, introducing himself as an old friend of Sakamoto. He claimed to be 18 years old and mentioned owning a shop on the same street. Lu, skeptical, pointed out that there wasn't another shop nearby. Shin added that the man looked too young to be a longtime friend of Sakamoto. Sakamoto clarified that the man was indeed an old friend, though he was actually 27 years old. Despite the explanation, Shin and Lu still restrained the stranger by tying him to a chair to prevent him from escaping. The stranger calmly revealed that Sakamoto's life was in immediate danger. He explained that there was a $1 million bounty on Sakamoto's head and that anyone who killed him would claim the reward. Shin scoffed, remarking that the amount seemed insultingly low for someone like Sakamoto. The stranger added that the association had finalized the decision to kill Sakamoto yesterday, and that the news would spread widely by tomorrow. Just then, a pizza delivery man entered the shop, asking who had placed the order. Lu excitedly admitted she had, delighted to see her order arrive. However, Shin read the pizza man's thoughts and realized he was an assassin. Before anyone could act, the delivery man brandished a pizza cutter weapon and lunged at the stranger, pressing the blade against his neck. He warned everyone not to move, threatening to kill the stranger. Turning to Sakamoto, the assassin grew more agitated upon noticing that Sakamoto remained completely unbothered, calmly eating his food. Furious, the assassin shouted at Sakamoto, accusing him of ignoring him even as he spoke. Before the situation could escalate further, the stranger, now identified as Tojo, swiftly overpowered the pizza assassin, choking him and rendering him helpless. Tojo looked at Shin and insisted that he had been truthful about everything he had said earlier. He even suggested they work together, offering an alliance. Sakamoto, still unshaken, told Tojo to let the man go and leave. Tojo, however, questioned how Sakamoto planned to defend himself against the endless threats, and what he would do if Tojo himself became an enemy. He quickly added that he was joking and assured them he wasn't one of the attackers. Before leaving, Tojo hinted that it might be time for Sakamoto to return to the battlefield and fight alongside him. As Tojo was leaving, Sakamoto called after him, asking who else wanted to kill him. Tojo replied that such information was a secret he couldn't disclose, but advised Sakamoto to remain calm and composed, especially given his past record of eliminating so many people. Lu, curious, asked Tojo if all the assassins would disguise themselves like the pizza man. Tojo laughed laughed and said he didn't think so, but added that assassins could be unpredictable. Picking up the unconscious pizza man, Tojo addressed Sakamoto one last time, saying it was an honor to see him again and a privilege before he met his end. Shin tried to chase after Tojo, but he was too fast and disappeared. Lu then mentioned that it was time for her to return to China. Sakamoto, staring at the untouched pizza, noticed something unusual on the screen of a hidden surveillance monitor connected to the association. In another location, within the association's headquarters, a cleaner remarked in frustration that he didn't understand why so much effort was being made to kill Sakamoto. He claimed that a man referred to as the Black Figure was far more dangerous than Sakamoto. His colleague, a man with long hair, hesitated before replying that Sakamoto's true potential was not to be underestimated. He suggested that Sakamoto could even kill him if he wished. Irritated, the cleaner snapped, asking why his colleague was speaking to him at all. The long-haired man apologized, admitting he had a bad habit of saying unnecessary things. Then, shifting the topic abruptly, he said he was hungry and suggested they order pizza. The leader of the association warned his subordinates to be extremely cautious of Sakamoto. He emphasized that they wouldn't be able to defeat him unless they caught him outside his usual environment. He stressed the importance of choosing the time and place carefully and creating difficult conditions to weaken him. He reminded them that Sakamoto was once one of them, which made him even more dangerous. The cleaner assassin expressed skepticism, questioning why there was much caution around Sakamoto. The long-haired man added that Sakamoto had been retired for 5 years and doubted his combat skills were still sharp. However, their conversation was abruptly interrupted when Sakamoto appeared on their surveillance feed. Calmly, he declared that he was waiting for any of them to come to him, promising to bury them in his shop. Shocked that Sakamoto could see them, they froze in disbelief as Sakamoto shot out the surveillance camera hidden in the pizza box. Later, Sakamoto and Shin sat outside the shop discussing recent events. Shin admitted he wasn't sure if Tojo could be trusted, but if what he said was true, they were likely heading for serious trouble. Sakamoto reassured him that they were fine for now, eating and drinking well, but emphasized the need to be prepared for anything. He added that they should improve their skills because their enemies could be anyone. Sakamoto's wife and daughter then approached them. His daughter excitedly announced that she was ready to go. Curious, Shin asked where she was headed. She explained that she was going to the amusement park, something she had been eagerly anticipating for a long time. Sakamoto, confused, admitted he didn't remember anything about this plan but agreed to go. The next day, the group found themselves at the amusement park. However, boredom quickly set in for the adults. They rode a challenging amusement ride that left them all dizzy and exhausted. Lu, visibly tired, rested while Sakamoto groaned, saying he felt like vomiting. Shin, concerned, jokingly offered to call a doctor, but Sakamoto's wife assured him it wasn't necessary and that Sakamoto would be fine. As they rested, Lu noticed a magazine in Sakamoto's daughter's hands. The girl excitedly explained that it featured Sugar Bunny, a massive rabbit she had been eager to see. Lu remarked that the rabbit was as big as a gang leader. Sakamoto's wife expressed her happiness at having everyone together and urged them to enjoy the day. Meanwhile, Shin couldn't shake off Tojo's warning about Sakamoto being a target. Turning to Lu, he suggested they should ensure the safety of Sakamoto's family and make sure no one could get close to them. Lu noted that the amusement park was crowded, making it difficult to identify any potential threats. Shin reassured her, explaining that he could read the thoughts of people within a 30-meter radius. He added that if someone harbored murderous intent, he would sense their emotional energy immediately. Annoyed, Lu asked Shin if he also listened to her thoughts when they were together. Shin denied it, saying he was too busy with other concerns. Lu, somewhat relieved, commented that it was a useful skill to have. Soon after, Shin sensed the presence of a killer nearby and warned Sakamoto. Sakamoto acknowledged the threat calmly, while Lu distracted Sakamoto's wife and daughter to keep them occupied, ensuring they wouldn't witness anything troubling. The assassin, known as the cleaner, approached Sakamoto, who readied himself for the confrontation. Tension thickened as the cleaner moved closer, his hand gripping the handle of a knife concealed in his box. With a sudden lunge, he attacked Sakamoto, but in a swift and calculated move, Sakamoto grabbed a pen from the assassin's pocket and drove it into his body, neutralizing him instantly. Shin and Lu arrived moments later, their expressions a mix of shock and awe. Sakamoto's wife, unaware of the commotion in the distance, casually asked if anyone else had heard something unusual. Meanwhile, Shin and Lu discreetly transported the assassin's body to a secluded forest. As they disposed of the body, Shin marveled at Sakamoto's efficiency, wondering aloud how he managed to kill the man seemingly without even looking at him. Elsewhere, the long-haired man from the association reflected on his earlier warnings to the cleaner about underestimating Sakamoto's strength. Despite his advice, the cleaner had met his demise. Now, the long-haired man turned his attention to Shin, recognizing his ability to read thoughts as a potentially greater threat. He resolved to test his own luck against them. Back at the amusement park, Shin sensed an unusual presence but couldn't pinpoint its source. An unknown figure brushed past him unnoticed as Sakamoto, despite feeling uncomfortable due to his weight, joined his daughter on another ride. Shin and Lu followed suit, boarding the final ride of the day. As the ride began, Lu, still uneasy, asked Shin why they had chosen to sit where they did. Shin explained that their position allowed them to ensure the safety of Sakamoto's family. Lu, still skeptical, voiced her doubts, pointing at a long-haired man she had noticed nearby. The long-haired man, hearing Lu's suspicions, thought to himself that she had correctly identified him. Shin, picking up on the man's thoughts, immediately recognized him as an assassin and discreetly informed Sakamoto. "To your left," he said, nodding in the man's direction. Sakamoto glanced at the assassin, who wasted no time drawing his gun and firing. Sakamoto dodged the bullet with sharp precision. Shin, reacting quickly, broke his chair and leapt into the air, landing on the assassin and dragging him from his seat. Both tumbled onto the amusement ride's rails in a chaotic struggle. The assassin struck Shin midair, breaking free from his grip. They fell onto the rails, their movements causing a ripple of panic among nearby parkgoers. The assassin taunted Shin, calling him reckless and declaring his intent to kill him. Shin, unfazed, retorted Sakamoto's on his day off. "You picked the wrong place to cause trouble." As the ride's train approached, Shin leapt onto it to avoid being hit. The assassin followed, vaulting high into the air and hurling a barrage of knives at Shin. Shin dodged one, but the second grazed his side, inflicting a painful wound. He fell to the ground, disoriented and struggling to regain his focus. The assassin loomed over Shin, mocking him. "You took a strong hit. You're on the verge of death." Despite his exhaustion, Shin met the assassin's gaze with defiance. "I'm not dead yet, and you won't be the one to kill me." The assassin smirked. Denial. Typical. You're not like Sakamoto. He stares down death with unyielding eyes. You? You have the mark of a loser. He continued, when people face death, it shows in their eyes. Over time, fear takes hold, paralyzing them. They hesitate, just like you did when you failed to evade my knives. The assassin's words hung in the air as Shin, bloodied but unbroken, prepared to make his next move. Shin, unfazed, called the assassin foolish and ignorant. He retorted that Sakamoto wasn't afraid of death, even if the assassin and all his allies came at him with everything they had. Shin confidently stated that Sakamoto's purpose was to protect his family, and that's what kept him alive and fighting. The assassin sneered, claiming he couldn't see the resolve Shin was talking about. Shin dismissed his words, saying it didn't matter what the assassin saw. He then declared that there was only one way to attack from their current position, narrowing the assassin's options. As the amusement train approached again, Shin made a calculated leap, confusing the assassin. Using the momentum, Shin positioned himself on a chair and launched a counterattack. However, the assassin managed to block Shin's strikes. The assassin then drew a knife and attempted to land blows on Shin, but Shin dodged each one with precision. While evading, Shin began analyzing the situation, recalling earlier moments in their scuffle. The assassin struck again with several rapid attacks, but Shin anticipated and avoided each one. Then, Shin caught a fleeting thought from Sakamoto, giving him clarity. Seizing the assassin's momentary focus on attacking, Shin grabbed hold of him and leapt off the amusement train. The two plummeted into the middle of a stage performance below. One of the performers, confused and startled, asked the assassin who he was. The assassin, visibly annoyed, threatened to kill the performer if he didn't get off the stage. Before he could act, another performer, a large rabbit mascot, intervened, urging the other performer to leave. The rabbit then revealed itself to be Shin in disguise, standing ready for the fight. The assassin revealed a set of knives, declaring his intent to kill Shin. However, Shin didn't let him finish his threat. He landed a powerful punch that sent the assassin staggering. The audience, thinking the fight was part of the stage performance, erupted in excitement and applause. The assassin retaliated with a flurry of strikes, strikes, but Shin dodged skillfully. Taking advantage of an opening, Shin delivered another solid punch, sending the assassin reeling. Meanwhile, Sakamoto's wife, sitting in the audience, turned to him and remarked on how realistic and thrilling the show was. Noticing Sakamoto's silence, she told their daughter that her father must be thoroughly enjoying the performance. In reality, Sakamoto was quietly guiding Shin, instructing him on the best moves to evade the assassin's attacks. Following Sakamoto's advice, Shin skillfully dodged the incoming strikes and countered with another powerful blow, further surprising the assassin. Bewildered, the assassin admitted he couldn't predict Shin's moves. In a desperate attempt, the assassin lunged at Shin with a sharp strike, cutting part of Shin's outfit near his face. The small tear revealed something startling. Shin had been keeping his eyes closed during the entire fight. Sakamoto, observing from the sidelines, calmly declared, "It's over." With renewed determination, Shin delivered a final devastating punch, knocking the assassin out and ending the fight. The audience erupted in cheers, applauding what they believed was an extraordinary stage performance. Sakamoto, signaling his approval, gave Shin a nod and a subtle gesture of acknowledgement. Shin, catching the gesture, responded in kind with a confident smirk. Lu, scared, searched for Shin in the chaos. Meanwhile, two more assassins appeared, targeting Sakamoto. One of them, Agber, complained about working in crowded places, but her partner reminded her to focus on the mission. He warned her not to kill anyone except Sakamoto. Luo treated Shin's eyes with an antidote to counter the poison, making Shin wince in pain. Lu was relieved they had the antidote. The assassin smugly said he always carried such remedies as a precaution. Sakamoto asked him who had sent him, and the assassin hesitated, asking if Sakamoto would let him go if he answered. Before he could say more, Lu questioned him about his poisoned knives. When the assassin admitted it, Lu stabbed him lightly and dropped the antidote, threatening to spill it unless he cooperated. Under pressure, the assassin revealed that a company called Dongani had hired him. He explained that Dongani sent assassins on solo missions, leaving them to survive on their own. He cynically added that everything after death was toxic too. Shin called him out for mocking them earlier, noting that he wouldn't have talked without Lu's threats. The assassin admitted he only cared about survival and had no loyalty to Dongani. Curious, Shin asked if the assassin was registered with GAA. The assassin confirmed, leaving Lu puzzled. Shin explained that GAA was a global organization managing professional assassins. He and Sakamoto were former members. Lu examined the ID card, joking that it looked like a driver's license. Shin smirked, saying getting a GAA license was much harder. The assassin then asked Sakamoto if the rumors were true about him being a legend in the organization. Sakamoto didn't answer. Just then, his wife and daughter arrived. His wife saw the tied-up assassin and asked what was going on. Thinking fast, Shin claimed the assassin was practicing an escape act for the amusement park show. Sakamoto's daughter, excited, announced that lunch was ready. The group left, leaving the assassin behind. Before leaving, Sakamoto's daughter returned and placed a bandage on the assassin's hand, praising his performance. Stunned, he thanked her. Once they were gone, he used a hidden knife to cut himself free, muttering about trying again later. Shin, feeling drained from the events, admitted he couldn't read thoughts for the rest of the day due to the antidote's side effects. Lu scolded him, saying they were now more vulnerable. Shin apologized to Sakamoto for not being at his best. Sakamoto's wife and daughter returned, and his wife noticed the group's strange behavior. Suspicious, she asked if they were hiding something. The trio froze under her scrutiny. Meanwhile, in a bathroom, an assassin named Batso washed his hands. Another assassin, Bold, appeared behind him, saying he was there to deal with what's troubling him. Agber suddenly attacked Batso, throwing him to the ground and demanding to know where he was running off to. Batso pleaded for space, but Agber ignored him, scolding him further. Bold snapped at her to sit properly, saying a woman shouldn't sit so carelessly. Annoyed, Agber adjusted her posture but remained stern. Batso, still on the ground, asked why they were there. BD replied that they had come to finish the job Batso had failed to complete. Agber added that if he didn't handle his tasks, the organization wouldn't hesitate to eliminate him. She also mentioned that she was excited to meet Sakamoto, and had been looking forward to this opportunity. Bold, on the other hand, revealed that Sakamoto would surely recognize him because of a scar on his face. Curious, Akbar asked if Sakamoto was the one who gave him the scar. Bold denied it, admitting sheepishly that he had actually tripped a few days ago and ended up with the scar. The two assassins then started bickering, leaving Batso watching in disbelief. He thought to himself that these two were completely unhinged, but acknowledged their deadly skills, recalling that they had once killed 100 men single-handedly. Meanwhile, Shin reassured Sakamoto's wife that everything was fine. She asked if they didn't have enough food, but Shin quickly denied it, saying the meal was excellent. Sakamoto's daughter then asked if they weren't enjoying the amusement park. Lu reassured her, saying they were excited to go on the next ride. They moved forward, with Shin and Lu remaining alert to keep the family safe. At a popcorn stand, Shin informed Sakamoto that there were no assassins nearby and that the situation seemed under control. However, Sakamoto remarked that such peaceful settings weren't ideal for killers, hinting at his unease. When they arrived at the next ride, they realized it was a haunted house attraction. Shin's face turned pale as he muttered that this was the perfect setting for an ambush. Inside, Bold and Akbar monitored them through surveillance cameras. Bold grinned maliciously and asked Akbar if she was ready for some bloody horror. As the group moved through the haunted house, they encountered staged ghosts and ghouls meant to scare visitors. Shin commented that Sakamoto's wife and daughter seemed genuinely happy, and Sakamoto told him to stay alert. Moments later, an assassin tried to attack Shin from behind but failed. He then targeted Sakamoto, who swiftly countered with rapid, precise blows, leaving the assassin immobilized. The entire time, Sakamoto pretended to be scared by the haunted house monsters, keeping his wife and daughter oblivious to the danger. Shin was impressed, remarking on how Sakamoto managed to fight while acting frightened. Sakamoto handed the assassin's identification card to Shin, who examined it and found out that the attacker was a newly registered first-class assassin. Shin scoffed, saying that if this was the level of assassin they were sending, there was nothing to worry about. However, Sakamoto, always cautious, reminded him to stay prepared. Back with Bold and Akbar, Akbar commented on Sakamoto's skill, amazed at his agility despite his weight. She admitted she couldn't wait to face him personally. Turning to Bold, she told him to stop making that noise and to quit his habit of exercising when stressed. Bold retorted that he wasn't stressed and was just eager to show off his moves to Sakamoto. Akbar reassured him, saying she would leave Sakamoto to him when the time came, jokingly calling them friends. This infuriated Bold, who shattered a bottle in anger before taking a drink. Yelling, he insisted that they had never been friends and never would be. His frustration brought back memories of his first encounter with Sakamoto. Standing in the bathroom, Bold recalled watching Sakamoto train. He had been friends with one of the trainees Sakamoto had defeated. As he observed Sakamoto practicing with his gun, he admired his precision and control, calling him impressive. He reminisced about their time together, including a moment on Valentine's Day when he told Sakamoto that assassins weren't meant to love because their hearts were too cold. Suddenly, a young woman approached Sakamoto, offering him a Valentine's gift and asking if he could be her date for the day. Bold was stunned when Sakamoto opened his locker, causing a mountain of gifts to spill out, showing how admired he was. Another assassin walked in, saw the pile, and asked Sakamoto who Bold was. Sakamoto casually replied that he didn't know him, which deeply angered Bold. Feeling humiliated, Bold stormed off. Recalling this memory, Bold admitted to Akbar that Sakamoto was never truly cold-hearted, unlike himself. Akbar asked if this was the root of their tension and suggested that Bold now had a chance to settle the score. However, Bold dismissed her, angrily shouting that he no longer cared. Meanwhile, inside the haunted house, Lu sighed, saying she wanted to go home. However, Sakamoto's daughter excitedly pointed out the zombies and wanted to see more. Shin teased Lu, saying the little girl was braver than her. In response, Lu pulled out a bottle and began drinking. Curious, Shin asked what it was. Lu revealed it was her family's favorite drink and tossed the bottle to him. When Shin sniffed it, he realized it was alcohol and, disgusted, quickly threw it away. As they ventured deeper, they came across a shaking door with what seemed like multiple people behind it. Ignoring Shin's warning, Lu opened the door, only for a horde of zombies and hidden assassins to rush out. Amid the chaos, Bold appeared and attacked Sakamoto, sending them both crashing to the upper floor. During the fight, Sakamoto threw an ID card at Bold, but he dodged it effortlessly. Smirking, Bold asked. Do you remember me now? Sakamoto simply replied, no. Annoyed, Bold threatened to destroy him. Unfazed, Sakamoto asked about Bold's family. Sarcastically, Bold shot back, go find out for yourself, I'm not your mother. Meanwhile, Shin was frantically searching for Sakamoto's wife and daughter. He finally found them unconscious in a nearby room. Before he could react, Agbur appeared with a group of assassins. Smirking, she taunted Shin, calling him the key part of their mission. Just as Shin was about to respond, Lu charged in and delivered a powerful punch to Agbor's face, sending her flying and spitting blood. Standing confidently, Lu declared that she would show Agbur the strength she inherited from her family. Shin, observing Lu's stance, noted that it looked like kung fu and jokingly commented that she still reeked of alcohol. Agbur, recovering from the hit, admitted that Lu's strength gave her chills. Back with Sakamoto and Bold repeated his question, asking if Sakamoto remembered him yet. Once again, Sakamoto said no and pressed for details about Bold's family. Irritated, Bold snapped, go figure it out yourself, I'm not your mother. Bold then tossed a small bomb at Sakamoto. However, the explosion barely affected him and Sakamoto retaliated with a powerful strike. But Bold skillfully dodged and threw a cluster of colored pellets, causing multiple explosions around Sakamoto. The chaos shook the room, and Bold managed to land a punch so powerful that the building trembled. Meanwhile, Agbur turned to her group and declared, the party has started. She blocked a punch from Lu and grabbed her hand, acknowledging her strength but boasting that she wasn't stronger than her. Agbur then grabbed Lu by the head and violently shook her until she collapsed unconscious. Turning to Shin, Agbur taunted him, saying it was now his turn to show his strength. Two assassins restrained Shin against a metal frame, while another brought out a chainsaw. Mocking him, Agbur said she believed Shin's power only emerged when he was angry. She then told Lu that every 10 seconds she would strike her. If Lu didn't respond, she would proceed to cut Shin apart with the chainsaw. Lu, in tears, began apologizing to Shin, admitting that she couldn't do anything to help. Shin, trying to lighten the mood despite the dire situation, looked at Lu and muttered, you're clearly drunk from all the alcohol you had earlier. Meanwhile, Bold confronted Sakamoto, reminding him that he had retired 5 years ago. He claimed that Sakamoto's inability to match his attacks was proof of how much weaker he had become. It's sad, Bold remarked, disappointment evident in his voice. I once idolized you, but look at you now. Sakamoto attempted another punch, but Bold quickly countered by tossing an explosive pellet, sending Sakamoto reeling. Smirking, Bold taunted, my explosive pellets and rocket punches. I've perfected these weapons over the years. As he spoke, he recalled the days when he first introduced these inventions to the team. Fueled by frustration, Bold launched a flurry of strikes, each one carrying the weight of his anger. You're weaker than before, he shouted, landing a devastating kick that sent Sakamoto flying across the room. As Sakamoto slammed into the wall, Bold lit a cigarette and sneered, sweet dreams, Sakamoto. Just as he began to celebrate, Sakamoto's voice rang out, calm yet menacing. Farewell to the days of your adolescence with me. Bold stiffened. Sakamoto continued, explaining the precise chemical components of Bold's bombs, revealing his intimate knowledge of their design. His eyes burned with determination. Now, I'll show you what I'm truly capable of. Lu endured Agbur's relentless blows, refusing to back down. However, a powerful kick sent her stumbling backward. Lu, breathless but defiant, muttered, I'm so tired. Shin, still restrained, recalled Agbor's cruel words, how she would strike Lu every 10 seconds. He clenched his fists, fear creeping in. It's over, he whispered to himself. Agbur aimed another kick at Lu, but this time, Lu dodged with ease. She smirked. You got lucky. Shin, watching intently, scolded her. Take this seriously, Lu. His frustration was growing. Agbur, unimpressed, delivered a brutal strike to Lu's stomach, sending her skidding backward. Enough joking, she said. But then, to everyone's surprise, Lu started laughing. Agbur turned around in confusion. What's so funny? Lu took a swig from her bottle, completely unfazed. As Agbur lunged at her with a barrage of punches, Lu effortlessly dodged every strike. Growing impatient, Agbur attempted to grab Lu's clothes to land a decisive blow, but she failed. Lu suddenly grabbed Akbar's hand, gently kissed it, and in a flash, delivered a crushing blow that sent Akbar stumbling back. Akbar let out a loud laugh. "That's it? Kill me. I love it." Lu shook her head. "We don't kill," she said firmly. "That's a rule my family follows." "Family?" Akbar scoffed. "The Sakamoto family consists of only 3 members, you fool." Lu's expression darkened. "You called me a fool," she muttered, clenching her fists. "Since coming to Japan, I've learned a lot, and now I'm being called a fool." She lunged at Akbar, preparing to strike. But just as her fist reached Akbar's face, she stopped, her fingers barely grazing her skin. Akbar's eyes widened in shock. Before anyone could react, Lu blinked, looking around in confusion. Where am I? Who's this lady? And why is Shin tied up? Shin's face twisted in disbelief. "You woke up at the wrong time." Akbar, still stunned, burst into laughter. "Are you mocking me?" She suddenly smiled and said, "I like strong warriors like you, Lu." Without warning, she pulled Lu into a tight hug. Shin sighed in relief. Looking at Akbar's men, he smirked. "I'm safe now." Back to the fight, Sakamoto calmly finished his analysis of Bold's explosives. Bold exhaled sharply. "You'd be stronger if you lost some weight. If you want to fight me properly, let's go." "I know you want to save your family." Sakamoto's expression didn't change. "My family doesn't need saving," he replied. "I trust them completely." Bold hesitated for a split second. "TCH whatever." He was about to retort when, BAM. Sakamoto's fist connected with Bold's face, sending him crashing through the wall. The ground shook as Sakamoto advanced, delivering another devastating kick, followed by a rapid succession of punches. Bold barely had time to react before Sakamoto shattered his weapon with a single well-placed punch. Bold gritted his teeth, reaching for his explosive pellets. He hurled them at Sakamoto, but before they could detonate, Sakamoto caught them. "What?" Bold gasped. Without hesitation, Sakamoto slammed the pellets into Bold's stomach, causing a massive explosion of pain. Bold fell to his knees, gasping for air. How do you still have this strength?" He choked out. Sakamoto exhaled, adjusting his stance. "I used my strength for the wrong reasons in the past," he said. "Now, I use it to protect the people I love." With that, he charged forward, his fist glowing with unstoppable force. Meanwhile, at the amusement park, 2 visitors enjoyed the rides, oblivious to the chaos unfolding nearby. Sakamoto and Wed were in a ride cart, sitting across from each other, when they were suddenly surprised by 2 people flying toward them. Wed, injured and spitting blood, admitted he hadn't given Sakamoto his full effort because he was tough. Meanwhile, Sakamoto's wife woke up and found Shin and Lu sleeping. She woke Shin and asked why he was there, mentioning that the last thing she remembered was being in the haunted house. When she asked how they got there, Shin guessed they must have lost consciousness. She then asked about Sakamoto, and Shin admitted he didn't know but quickly ran off to find him. Back with Sakamoto and Wed, their cart finally reached the ground. As they got out, an employee asked what had happened. Wed told her not to worry about the injured man, but the employee clarified that she was asking about the destroyed ride cart, saying they had to pay for the damage. Wed accepted defeat, telling Sakamoto that he won and that he would leave him alone now. Sakamoto then ordered 5 meat sandwiches. As he ate, Wed asked for a bite, and Sakamoto handed over what he was eating. Wed happily took it, calling it an honor. Sakamoto replied that the leftovers were meant for his family. Just then, Shin arrived, shocked to see that Sakamoto had lost weight so quickly. He pulled out his phone and took pictures in disbelief. Wed then asked Sakamoto how he planned to handle the gang, since they had placed a bounty on his head. Before Sakamoto could answer, his wife arrived and overheard the word reward, immediately showing anger. She demanded to know what was going on. Meanwhile, Lu told Hannah to finish playing, and Hannah excitedly pointed at some candy she wanted. Akbar, watching, commented that Hannah was too spoiled but had great potential. Sakamoto's wife then asked for an explanation. Sakamoto admitted that there was a bounty on his life. Furious, she asked why he hadn't told her sooner. Wed took a bite of his sandwich and explained that Sakamoto didn't want to worry her so she could enjoy the amusement park with their daughter. Turning to Wed, Sakamoto's wife asked who he was. He introduced himself as a professional assassin. Angrily, she demanded that he not kill her husband. She then asked Sakamoto why he kept this a secret, saying she would have found out anyway. Sakamoto admitted he didn't want to stress her out. She reminded him of their family rules, pulling out a book and pointing to rule number 6, no secrets between us. Shocked, Sakamoto nodded in agreement. She then said that once this was settled, they should go watch a show. Wed, impressed, commented that Sakamoto's wife was tough. At the presentation, Shin asked Sakamoto how they could solve the issue. Sakamoto replied that they needed to kill the person who presented the contract to the gang, which would cancel the bounty. However, they first needed to figure out who that person was. Akbar mentioned that the order came from Jihai, making it hard to track the source. Bullet suggested he might be able to get information from his boss. Shin told Bullet to call his boss, but Bullet asked why he should do it. Shin called him useless, frustrating Bullet, who then agreed to go, taking Akbar with him. Shin then asked if they had figured out where DWI was. Sakamoto said he knew someone who could help and led them to a man. On the way, Shin appeared angry. Lu asked if he was in pain, but Shin was actually just confused about how Sakamoto had regained his weight so quickly. They eventually arrived at the man's office, which was filled with movies. Shin, confused, asked what kind of place it was. Sakamoto explained that they sold information in the form of films and directed them to a screening room. Inside, they watched footage of Jay Kaui's presentations. Shin took notes, while Lu seemed sad after the movie ended. When they left, Sakamoto went to pay, but the bill was expensive. Shin asked how he planned to afford it, and Sakamoto simply replied that he had saved up plenty of money over the years. With that, they left the library. An employee asked Sakamoto if he would return to them, then warned him to be very careful and mentioned that someone from his team was behind this. Sakamoto asked him to clarify. The employee replied that he didn't know more than that and that there was no movie for it anymore. Next, we moved to Nagumo, who was sitting at a business lunch. They asked him about Sakamoto. Nagumo told them he hadn't seen him in a long time. The man with the yellow hair told Heio not to interfere and said the man could show up at any moment. Heio replied that it didn't matter and expressed doubts about Nagumo's loyalty, directing a knife strike at him. Nagumo cleverly blocked it with a fork and told him to save the killing for dinner. The man with the yellow hair then told Suraji that he didn't think it was their fight. Suraji told Miss Shishi, the man with the yellow hair, that he thought he hadn't eaten this food. Shishi called the chef over, grabbed him, put his head on the table, and stabbed his hands with a knife, telling him he didn't like onions with his food. Mr. Ira entered and greeted them, saying he was from GGI and that their gathering was very good. Heio told him they hadn't finished yet. There were only 4 of them. Shishi said the other 3 never showed up, and Takamura wasn't there either, though he always came. Nagumo said he thought Takamura had something that kept him busy. Shishi disagreed, believing he had just forgotten the appointment. AR showed them a photo of someone from GGI who was wandering around, and they didn't know who he was. He asked them to deal with the situation quickly. Now we moved to Sakamoto, Shin, and Lu outside the Don Koi building. Sakamoto told them they would avoid killing and that it would be a secret operation. They put on their operation clothes. Inside the building, 2 guards were walking in the hallway. Shin threw a rope on the first guard, making him disappear. Then Sakamoto took out the second one. Afterward, they took off their clothes. Lu asked about the leader of the place, and Shin explained that the leader's office was on the upper floor. They needed to jump from the other window. Shin then asked Sakamoto if he knew about that. Sakamoto replied that he had been sleeping through the movie. Next, we moved to a guard washing his hands. He heard a sound, opened the window, and showed his gun. But Sakamoto pointed a gun at his head from above and shocked him with electricity. They entered the room and Lu tied him up with a rope. Lu said she was really enjoying being a spy. Shin reminded her they weren't here for fun. They went to the leader's room, and Shin told Sakamoto that he hadn't heard any thoughts from anyone here and thought the place was empty. They entered the leader's room and found many dead guards on the ground, with Nagumo sitting alone in a chair in the middle of the room. Nagumo said to Sakamoto, "I caught you red-handed, didn't I?" Shin asked Nagumo what he was doing there, and Nagumo replied that he had killed the upper management employees. He then said that Sakamoto had to die too. He revealed a knife and quickly appeared behind Shin, stabbing the knife into his neck. Shin grabbed his neck but saw no wound. Nagumo laughed and told him the knife was fake, just a joke. Shin attacked him, and Nagumo said that when he arrived, everyone was dead and he hadn't done anything. He was there for another mission. Sakamoto asked Nagumo what had brought him there. Nagumo explained that he was looking for something building, and that many professional killers had been killed. Shin asked what was strange about that, and Nagumo explained that while killings due to fights were normal, these were unusual. He told them that 100 fighters from organizations close to GGI had been killed brutally, and he thought it was a message to GGI. Shin said that was a quarter of the professional killers, and Nagumo added that after each killing, an X mark was left on the wall. Sakamoto asked if it was a commission request, and Lu asked what the request was. Nagumo replied that he was alone in GGI, and the best among the killers. He explained that they handled operations for dangerous killers and had a large system in the world of killing. He also mentioned that Sakamoto was among the request, and warned him to be careful of the X. Shin told them they hadn't become killers, and Lu told him they were just there to find out about the reward. Nagumo said he didn't know much about it, but the killers were attacked just after the reward for killing Sakamoto was announced. We then moved to a killer drawing an X on the wall after killing many others. Next, we moved to Sakamoto's store, where Shin said that after everything, they were back at square one. They entered the store and a man was holding a knife, asking where Sakamoto was. Lu taught Hana to press a button, causing a bunch of weapons to fall on the killer's head. Sakamoto remembered Nagumo's words. If he was as strong as Bullet, he was finished. Sakamoto said that since they didn't know who the killer was, they would train to defend themselves. The man entered the store and asked Lu for something, but Lu struck him on the head with a bottle, causing him to fall, his head bleeding, and a knife beside him. The assassin thought about his pet bird's expensive diet, which cost him $10,000 per month. His own food expenses reached $20,000, yet he barely made it through the month. He believed that if he could kill Sakamoto and claim the billion-dollar bounty, all his problems would be solved, and he could completely change his life. Meanwhile, at the store, Shin was sweeping up broken glass, complaining about always cleaning up after reckless assassins. Lu commented that the store had taken a lot of damage, and Sakamoto agreed, saying they needed to fix everything. However, Shin reminded him that they didn't have enough money to cover the repairs. He then suggested entering a competition to win some money. Just then, an assassin entered the store asking for Sakamoto. He claimed he would leave them alone if they just told him where Sakamoto was. Then, he insulted Sakamoto by calling him fat. Playing along, Sakamoto denied knowing anyone by that name. The assassin, confused, pointed out that the store's sign literally had Sakamoto written on it. Sakamoto casually dismissed his suspicion, saying that plenty of stores had the same name. Frustrated, the assassin muttered, "How am I supposed to find him now?" Shin, reading his mind, realized that all he thought about was food. The assassin then revealed that an elderly woman outside had told him Sakamoto owned the store and was inside. Growing annoyed, Shin insisted that no one named Sakamoto was there and sarcastically added that there were over 200 million stores with the same name. The assassin, stunned, muttered, 200 million. He then lamented that he didn't have enough money to visit them all and started crying, revealing that he couldn't even afford breakfast. Feeling bad for him, Sakamoto and the others offered him food. His face lit up with joy, and after eating, he left to continue his search for Sakamoto. As he walked away, they waved goodbye and told him he was welcome to return anytime. Shin turned to Sakamoto and said, "I didn't think assassins this clueless existed." Sakamoto smirked and replied, "There are plenty of them out there, and they never stop being this dumb." That night, the assassin set up his tent, a gift from his grandmother, telling himself it would be enough until he became rich. He briefly reminisced about his time in the Assassin Guild, where he had been deemed unfit to be a true assassin. Snapping back to reality, he vowed to prove them wrong and make them regret kicking him out. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind tore through the area, ripping his tent apart. He desperately tried to grab it before it flew away, but he failed. He sank to the ground in despair. Just then, a piece of paper blew into his face. When he pulled it off and read it, he saw it was an advertisement for a competition with $1 million prize. His eyes widened with excitement as he imagined the house he could buy with that money. The next day, Shin and Sakamoto arrived at the competition venue. Shin was amazed by the massive area, saying it looked incredible. They went to pick up their wireless communication devices, which they would use to stay in touch during the contest. Shin was impressed by the technology. Lu also arrived at the event to support Sakamoto. Shin approached her and asked why she hadn't signed up. Lu scoffed, saying she had no interest in participating in such a ridiculous competition. "But we need the money to repair the store," Shin reminded her. Just then, they heard a familiar voice. It was the assassin from before, accompanied by his pet bird. The event staff told him he wasn't allowed to participate. "But I need the money," he protested, tears welling up in his eyes. The event organizer, annoyed, told him he could only enter if he formed a team of 2 to 5 people. This completely crushed his hopes. At that moment, Lu called out to the assassin's pet bird, catching his attention. The assassin immediately ran toward Shin, grabbed his leg, and pleaded for help. He even got on his knees, begging. Frustrated, Shin scribbled Sakamoto's name along with the assassin's on the registration form, officially making them a team. The event host welcomed the contestants and announced that the competition would begin with a paintball shootout. The event would take place on Main Street, and all participants would have to clean up afterward. Shin was excited about the challenge, but Sakamoto seemed more interested in the idea of cleaning the neighborhood. Now officially a team, Shin, Sakamoto, and the clumsy assassin gathered together. The assassin turned to Shin and asked, "So, what do we do now?" Shin sighed. "You shoot everyone except us. We are on the same team." Without hesitation, the assassin swiftly took down 4 competitors with precise shots, leaving Shin stunned. "How did he do that?" "I thought he was useless," Shin muttered, surprised by his unexpected skill. A shot came from behind, but Shin dodged just in time and eliminated 2 more opponents. Meanwhile, 2 competitors tried to sneak up on Sakamoto, but he quickly grabbed one of their paintball guns and eliminated them both in one swift motion. As he fought, Sakamoto thought about improvements for his store, like bulletproof glass and better shelves for storing instant noodles. The assassin suddenly declared, "I have friends now." Shin glanced at him. "I guess that means we're friends too." The assassin nodded enthusiastically. "You guys are professionals." Then, without hesitation, he ran off. "I'll go be bait for the others." As he ran, he overheard Lu cheering, "Go, Sakamoto. Take them down." He froze. "Wait, you know Sakamoto?" He quickly pulled out a photo. "No way, this doesn't look like him at all." Lu casually pointed at Sakamoto. "That's Mr. Sakamoto, just thinner. Look at the hair, the glasses." Alarmed, Shin quickly pulled Lu away before she revealed too much. The assassin chuckled. "No way, that guy. He looks nothing like the picture." But then, his expression turned serious as he raised his weapon at Sakamoto. "I hate liars." Before either of them could fire, other participants ambushed them, forcing everyone to scatter. Shin quickly found cover and returned fire, eliminating a few more opponents. Sakamoto engaged as well, but the assassin summoned his bird, which dropped his special weapon from above. The moment he caught it, he took aim and fired at Sakamoto. Reacting quickly, Sakamoto blocked the shot with his hand, but the impact left a wound. Seeing that Sakamoto was still standing, the assassin decided to reposition. "We should back off and fire from another angle," he said before running away. Shin attempted to chase him, but Sakamoto stopped him. "We need to solve this properly. Let's find him first." They moved carefully, tracking the assassin's location. Shin volunteered to go ahead, but Sakamoto stopped him. When hunting a sniper, you have to follow the rules, stay quiet, observe, and only engage when you're certain. As soon as Sakamoto stepped out of the corridor, a bullet shattered a glass sign, slicing through his shirt. He dodged just in time. The assassin, now irritated, spoke through their communication devices. "You dodged that one too?" Shin tried to play it off. "That bullet was just a random ricochet." Sakamoto corrected him. "No, it had a peculiar spin. It's designed specifically for ricochets." The assassin smirked. "Exactly. This is a triple-dimension ricochet bullet. Impossible to track." Shin glared at him. "You said we were friends, but now you're trying to kill us." "Don't be naive," the assassin replied. "We're mercenaries before we're friends. When I look down my scope, all I care about is hitting my target." Without hesitation, he fired 3 more shots. Sakamoto and Shin darted away, dodging as the bullets ricocheted unpredictably. They continued running, avoiding shots from every angle, but Sakamoto skillfully evaded them. Eventually, they found cover behind a staircase. Meanwhile, the assassin reflected on his past, his failures in races, losing fights, and never excelling at anything. He had never been able to stand beside his friends because he was incompetent at everything. Everything except one thing: sniping. Determined to prove his worth, he had approached the elite assassin guild, claiming he would become their best sniper. But the guild's recruiter dismissed him. Sniping alone isn't enough. You need to be well-rounded. Assassins don't choose their tasks. The assassin remembered his past struggles. He had once been sent on a mission with only a knife, but his poor close combat skills had led to failure. Knocked to the ground while trying to escape, he had eventually been pushed into meaningless office work. One of his fellow assassins had mocked him, telling him to quit since he wasn't cut out for the job. That night, feeling hopeless, he had received a job request to assassinate Sakamoto. If I complete this mission, I'll prove to them all that I belong. Snapping back to the present, he aimed at Sakamoto and Shin once more. He fired, but they dodged again. Shin, who had been reading his thoughts, spoke through the assassin's earpiece. "Turn off your mic. I've heard everything." His voice turned sharp. "You don't need to prove yourself to them. You need to prove yourself to yourself." The assassin ripped out his earpiece. "You're trying to shake my confidence with words, but it won't work." Meanwhile, Sakamoto picked up a small stone and, with precise force, hurled it at the assassin's rifle. The impact shattered the weapon completely and sent the assassin crashing to the ground. Dazed, the assassin stared in disbelief. "I can't kill this man. He's too strong." Back at the competition, the announcer declared Team Sakamoto the winners. They received their prize money, but away from the crowd, the assassin broke down in tears. "I'm even terrible at sniping now. I'm not good at anything." Sakamoto reassured him, "Don't say that. You're an incredible sniper, one of the best I've ever seen." As they prepared to leave, Shin handed the assassin his share of the winnings. It was a ridiculously small amount. The assassin frowned. "This is my cut." Shin smirked. "You caused too much damage to the city." Back at the store, Sakamoto's wife confronted him. "So, you won the prize, but spent it all on cleaning up the city?" She sighed but then smiled. "At least you're okay." Shin turned to her. "Tell me, how did you two even meet?" She thought back to the past, recalling how she had first met Sakamoto in a store where he had been shopping. He had fallen for her instantly. Smiling, she said, he had the biggest, sweetest smile. At that moment, Sakamoto imagined himself stabbing Shin in the neck for reading his wife's thoughts. Instead, he simply warned, "Don't ever do that again." Sakamoto and his wife arrived at their daughter's school to capture moments of her in class. As he took pictures, Lee smiled. "I'm happy you finally left the store in Shin and Lu's hands," she said. "Do you think they're handling things well?" Sakamoto nodded. "I think so." Meanwhile, at the store, Shin and Lu were arguing. "Stop wearing my work uniform," Shin snapped. Lu shrugged. "Then clean the windows." Frustrated, Shin muttered, "Whenever no one's around, I'm the one responsible for everything." Lu rolled her eyes. "You're acting like a child." Annoyed, Shin turned to her. "I can't hear every word you're saying." "I have the right to say what I want," Lu retorted, "and I won't let you read my mind." Just then, a mercenary assassin entered. "Got any pork left?" Lu smirked. "See? Reading minds isn't good." Shin scoffed. "You're drunk again." Lu threw a pastry at him. "You make me uncomfortable. It's like you're always in my head." Shin's expression darkened. Without a word, he walked out, clearly hurt. The assassin watched him leave, not stopping him. He asked Lu, then pointed at the pastry. "Can I have that?" "Get out," Lu snapped. Shin wandered the streets, while Lu stubbornly waited for him to return and apologize. Moments later, strange men entered the store, mistaking Lu for Sakamoto. Before she could react, they grabbed her and shoved her into a van. Inside, Tanaka, the gang leader, studied a photo of Shin. "He's changed a lot in 11 years, he muttered. The driver, Seba, hesitated. "Sir, I think we kidnapped the wrong person." Tanaka scowled. "No, this is him. He was raised in a lab, the only one who can read minds. Who'd even want someone like that?" Hearing this, Lu clenched her fists and punched Tanaka. "Yeah, Shin's annoying, but he's 1,000 times better than you." Tanaka rubbed his face. "And who the hell are you?" "Sir, this isn't Shin," Seba said. Tanaka's face fell. He had made a huge mistake. At the store, Shin returned. "I need to act like the older one here." "All right, Lu, I'll let you apologize," he called. But the store was empty. Broken glass on the floor made his stomach drop. Just then, Sakamoto arrived. "What happened?" "It's my fault. I don't know where she is," Shin admitted. Sakamoto checked his phone. "She's on the highway." Shin's eyes widened. How do you know? There's a tracker in the store uniform. Sakamoto and Shin sped off on a motorcycle. We're getting our pork chef back. Inside the van, Tanaka panicked. That's the real Shin. Capture him. Bikers attacked. One swung a stun baton at Sakamoto, but he dodged and slammed the attacker into a wall. Meanwhile, Shin leaped onto a truck loaded with wooden planks and called out to the driver, "I need to borrow some of these." Grabbing handfuls of wood, he threw them onto the road, toppling another biker. Sakamoto then struck another pursuer squarely in the face with his motorcycle, sending him tumbling onto the asphalt. Inside the car, Lu glared at Tanaka. "You should surrender and apologize before this gets worse." Tanaka responded by grabbing her by the throat. "If I don't bring Shin back to the lab, things will get much worse than this." As Shin landed on the car's roof, Tanaka barked, "Seba, handle him." Taking the wheel himself, he left the fight to Seba, who smirked. "I'll need an extra fee for this one." Shin readied himself. "So you want to fight?" Before he could react, Seba vanished and reappeared in an instant, landing a devastating punch that sent Shin crashing into a passing car. Then, with lightning speed, Seba attacked Sakamoto. Sakamoto blocked the hit and grabbed Seba by the throat. Thinking fast, Seba struck the motorcycle's fuel tank, causing an explosion that forced him to retreat to the car. "Did you capture Shin?" Tanaka asked. Seba shrugged. "I forgot." Sakamoto and Shin regrouped on the roadside. Shin sighed. "We lost the bike and our tail on them." Sakamoto nodded. "Who are these people?" Shin's expression darkened. "They're from the lab where I was raised. It's an illegal research facility. They experimented on people, but I never thought they'd turn into criminals." Sakamoto cracked his knuckles. "Either way, we're getting Lu back." They arrived at a seemingly ordinary museum. "Is this the lab?" Sakamoto asked. "Yeah," Shin confirmed. "But it's just a front. The lab is underground." Sakamoto smirked. "Then let's take a tour of your childhood home." Inside, they found exhibits concealing the facility's true purpose. Two women approached them. "Let us take your picture." One said, "No thanks." Shin refused. But before he could stop them, they snapped the photo anyway. Shin sighed, grabbing a mask from a nearby stand. "I'll take this. It'll protect my face from punches." Sakamoto chuckled. "Nice. Maybe I'll bring my family here sometime." Shin rolled his eyes. "We need to focus." He discreetly pointed toward an unmarked hallway. "That's the entrance to the lab." Meanwhile, Tanaka proudly presented Lu to his boss. The boss studied her, unimpressed. "He's changed a lot. If you're lying, you'll be executed." Seba cleared his throat. "I need to say something." Tanaka turned sharply. "Shut up, Seba." Ignoring him, Seba addressed the boss. "Sir, that's not Shin, but she knows where he is." The boss immediately ordered both Tanaka and Lu to be restrained and taken away. Then, he turned to Seba. "I'm counting on you. Bring me the real Shin." Shin examined the area and pointed toward a hidden mechanism. "There's a way down from here." Sakamoto turned a bear statue's head to the right. As he did, a trapdoor opened, revealing a closed gate. Shin approached the control panel and entered a code, but it was incorrect. Suddenly, the bear statue sprang to life, revealing hidden weapons inside its mouth. It opened fire on them with rapid gunfire. Sakamoto dashed forward, dodging bullets with ease before landing a powerful punch to the mechanical bear's head. Before they could relax, another bear statue emerged, fully armed. Shin swiftly hurled a spear at its core, destroying it before it could attack. Just as they thought they were safe, a massive animatronic dinosaur came to life, lashing out with its tail. Sakamoto and Shin barely dodged. Observing its size, Sakamoto mused, "My daughter would love to take pictures with this thing." Shin groaned. "We need to take it down without destroying it." Sakamoto nodded. "Fine. Give me the stun gun." Shin quickly handed it over. "Aim for its mouth. That's where the control module is." Sakamoto leaped into the air and fired the stun gun at the dinosaur's mouth. The electric surge briefly disrupted it, but the dinosaur remained active. Before they could react, it swung its tail again, shattering Sakamoto's stun gun. Sakamoto sighed. "Guess we're done being careful." Launching himself forward, he delivered a devastating punch to the dinosaur's mouth. Sakamoto destroyed the dinosaur's circuits, kicked its head, then jumped into the air and came crashing down onto its tail, cutting it off completely. "The way dinosaurs move is fascinating," he remarked, dusting himself off. Meanwhile, inside the lab, a scientist panicked. "Has the main entrance been breached?" A heavily armed enforcer stepped forward. "Get back to work. We need rest to continue our research. The scientist hesitated. Unfazed, the enforcer struck him down. Finish the project now. The scientist coughed. It's impossible. The research you're asking for can't be completed. The enforcer pointed a gun at his head. You're talking too much. Before he could pull the trigger, Sakamoto and Shin stormed in, taking him down instantly. Shin looked around. What's going on here? The scientist scrambled to his feet. The lab has been taken over by hired killers. Where's the director? Shin asked. He's being held in the upper chamber, the scientist explained, then revealed a dark truth. A year ago, a mercenary named Kashima took control. He said old assassination methods, like blades and guns, were outdated. He forced us to work on his vision. Kashima runs this place? Shin's eyes darkened. The scientist nodded. He has a small but powerful force guarding him. Sakamoto cracked his knuckles. Then we'll take them all down. The scientist panicked. You should run, not fight. The man in charge of this floor is ruthless. Before they could react, an enemy approached. The scientist quickly shoved Sakamoto and Shin into a closet to hide them. In a detention cell, Tanaka shouted in frustration, "Let me out of here." Fed up with his whining, Lu smacked him. "Shut up already." Tanaka grumbled, "You're a violent woman." Ignoring him, Lu examined a nearby rock. "This might help us escape." Tanaka scoffed. "That's ridiculous." A voice suddenly spoke from the darkness. "You won't get out that way." Lu turned to see an older man restrained in the corner. "Who are you?" "I am the director of this facility," he answered. "But if you want to escape, I can tell you how." Back in the medical lab, a man named Matter approached a group of scientists. "What's all this noise? Can I join in?" One of the scientists gulped. "There's no one here." Matter walked up to the doctor. "Let me borrow your pen," he said. Without warning, he stabbed the pen into the doctor's hand, making him wince in pain. "Don't lie to me," Matter scolded. He turned to the rest of the scientists. "One of my assistants was taken down," he muttered. "That means something is going on here." He motioned for them to show their pens. One hesitantly threw a pen at him, but Matter dodged with ease. From the shadows, Shin smirked. Not bad reflexes for an old man. The doctor turned to Shin in shock. "Idiot, why did you reveal yourself?" For a moment, Shin recalled a fragment of his childhood in this very place. He shook his head. "I don't like tight spaces." Matter tilted his head. "Are you one of the intruders?" His smile widened. "No matter. I'll test one of my experiments on you." From his sleeve, he pulled out a syringe. Before anyone could react, he vanished and reappeared behind Shin, stabbing it into his neck. Shin tried to counter, but Matter flickered back to his original position. "Let's begin the test," Matter declared, pressing a small button on his palm. Shin's body convulsed as an electric shock surged through him. His words became incoherent, turning into strange babbling. Matter chuckled. "This syringe alters the brain's speech pathways. With electric pulses, I can distort your words." Furious, Shin struggled to speak but lunged at Matter anyway. However, his attacks missed completely as Matter dodged with ease. Sakamoto suddenly stepped in and delivered a powerful punch to Matter's face, sending him crashing against the wall. Sakamoto turned to Shin. "I don't know what happened to you here as a child." Shin clenched his fists. Sakamoto cracked his knuckles. "Do you want to clean this place up?" Shin took a deep breath and nodded. "Yeah." Sakamoto grinned. "Then let's clean your old home." Outside the museum, two figures approached the entrance. Shiba and Asaragi stood in front of the building, scanning it carefully. "Does this place have any connection to Slur?" Shiba muttered. Osaragi replied, "Investigation is part of our job." Shiba smirked. "Fair enough." With that, the two operatives stepped forward. A hired assassin entered Sakamoto's store, saying he had money and wanted to buy a few things. While there, he noticed Sakamoto's daughter crying. "I wanted to talk to them about Parents' Day, but no one showed up," she sobbed. The assassin offered her candy to stop crying, but she kept sobbing. Seeing this, he said, "I'll find them for you," and sent his bird to search for her parents. Meanwhile, Lu was locked up with the lab director. Realizing who he was, she furiously grabbed him. "I'm here because of you, aren't I?" she shouted. The director, tied up like her, protested. "Of course not. I'm in the same prison as you." Lu demanded, "Then tell me everything you know." Elsewhere, Sakamoto, Shin, and Matter stood together. "I know who you are," Sakamoto, Matter said. "You've become famous, but you shouldn't have gained so much weight. I also implanted a device in your neck." Sakamoto shrugged. "I don't care," and tried to punch Matter, only to accidentally hit Shin instead. Confused, Sakamoto muttered, "Why did my hand move toward Shin?" Matter smirked. "The device messes with your focus. You'll keep changing targets." Determined, Sakamoto aimed again. "Then I'll target Shin so my attacks hit you instead." In prison, The director explained he was jailed for refusing to obey orders. Lu frowned. Then why am I here? I don't know. I don't even know who you are, the director replied. Frustrated, Lu grabbed Tanaka. This is your fault. You mistook me for Shin. The director's eyes widened. Shin? The mind reader? Lu asked. You know him? The director nodded. I gave him that ability. He then recalled Shin's past, how he restricted his food, explaining certain substances were bad for him. Shin would protest, saying he preferred juice. The director remembered Shin visiting at night, asking, "What are you working on?" "I'm researching ways to make humans superhuman," the director replied. "Is it fun?" Shin asked. "Yes. If it works, it will bring happiness to everyone." Shin used to break things in the lab and needed constant supervision. One day, another scientist mocked the director for chasing an impossible goal. Shin overheard and defended him. "You're wrong. He will succeed." One night, the director finally succeeded. Just then, Shin walked in, thirsty, and drank the liquid he was working on. Shocked, the director yelled, "What are you doing?" Shin quickly spat it out. The next day, while bathing Shin, the director reassured himself. The liquid didn't affect him. Everything is fine. But Shin suddenly said, "I'm not okay." That drink was terrible. After gaining the ability to read minds, Shin exposed people's thoughts. Instead of bringing him closer, it pushed them away. "He's dangerous. Stay away from him," they whispered. Feeling guilty, the director promised, "I'll create an antidote to fix this." Shin shook his head. "I'm fine the way I am. You should be proud of your research." The director sighed. "I hurt you. You didn't deserve that." Shin smiled faintly. "Your research isn't foolish." Then his face darkened. "But I don't want to stay here. The scientists fear me. They've become bad people." Shin escaped. Back in the present, the director admitted he hadn't met Shin since. Lu asked, "Doesn't Shin feel sad because of his power?" Surprised, the director asked how she knew. Lu replied, "I live with him. He loves his power. Since our boss is quiet, we talk in our minds. You both need to reconcile. Sakamoto's rule is that conflicts shouldn't last more than a day, but you took too long." The director poured a chemical on the door, breaking it open. Lu frowned. "You had a way out? Why didn't you escape?" "I don't want to leave and help them with their research," the director replied. As the door opened, a guard rushed in, but Lu quickly knocked him out. Meanwhile, Sakamoto punched Shin and was shocked. "How did that happen?" Matter smirked. "I control your movements." He injected himself, enhancing his muscles, then landed a powerful blow. Shin tried to kick him, but his attack was redirected towards Sakamoto. Matter strengthened his legs and struck Shin, but Shin blocked it, shattering the glass. Sakamoto tried to attack, but Matter immobilized him and sent him crashing into the wall. "You should give up," Matter taunted. "Even legends can't beat science." Shin gritted his teeth. "I'll just read your thoughts." Matter launched rapid punches, hurting Shin. "Even if you read my mind, my body moves differently. Your power is useless." Sakamoto picked up Shin. "Don't dirty your clothes. Cleaning them is a hassle." Looking at Matter, he added, "Shin is strong. I'll show you." Matter sneered. "You're all idiots. My intelligence is beyond yours." He injected multiple serums at once, transforming into a monster. Shin glanced at Sakamoto. "What's the plan?" Reading Sakamoto's thoughts, Shin sighed. "Are you serious?" Shin turned his back on Matter, enraging him. "You mocking me?" Matter roared, throwing a punch. Shin dodged, and Sakamoto's attacks hit Matter instead. The blows overwhelmed him, returning him to normal. Doctors removed the needles from Shin and Sakamoto's backs and thanked them. Shin shrugged. "It's fine. I used to belong here, but now I work at Sakamoto's store." A doctor thanked Sakamoto for looking after Shin. Shin grinned. "I dodged all your attacks, Sakamoto. But maybe you went overboard." Sakamoto imagined strangling him. Shin scowled. "Why?" "Because you mentioned my wife," Sakamoto muttered. Again, Shin groaned as they rushed to save Lu. On the way, Sakamoto warned Shin about a dangerous fighter. Shin asked, "Weren't there heroes in your old organization?" Sakamoto sighed. "That place had all kinds of people, but this guy, he could take down 10 of them in seconds." Shin's face paled. "He's that strong." As they ran, Sakamoto pressed a button, opening a large pit. Before Shin could fall, Sakamoto yanked him back. Meanwhile, the boss sat with 2 men. "I don't care what kind of fighters they are. As long as I have Oniga and Sakamoto, I'm fine." Elsewhere, Shiba and Aseriji arrived. "We've faced 3 masterminds," Shiba muttered. "I want to eat them." The boss smirked. Your problem? You haven't trained enough. Shiba chuckled. This place is a maze. The boss leaned forward. Let me guide you to the exit. Shiba asked, is Slur here? He broke the rules, kidnapping innocents and making illegal weapons. The boss sighed. Sorry, but I have to kill you. I'll first. He paused. But first, I need the bathroom. Oniga and Sakamoto rushed at Shiba. Shall we kill him now? They asked. The boss nodded. Go ahead. Aseriji sighed. These two are boring. Shiba smirked. Calm down. Oniga revealed a weapon and tried to attack, but Aseriji swiftly used her blade to decapitate both Oniga and Sakamoto. The boss picked up Oniga's head, crying. How could you take so many lives? He asked. These people had families who will grieve for them. Removing a string from his arm, he said, it's better to kill you instead. A weapon emerged from his hand. You're unforgivable. You must die. Aseriji turned to Shiba. Should we kill him? Shiba nodded. I think so. He's just like his boss. Before he could finish speaking, the boss struck him, injuring him. My quick movements are thanks to my teacher, he said. This killing is justified. Shiba appeared behind him and struck, defeating him. I have nothing to do with Slur, he said, before leaving with Aseriji. However, the boss regained consciousness. I also have a cybernetic body, he revealed. Suddenly, Sakamoto fell from above, crashing onto the boss and knocking him down. Approaching Shiba, Sakamoto greeted him. Shiba introduced Aseriji to Sakamoto, calling her a new member. The boss stood up and recognized Sakamoto. Why are you here? You're the only one who has ever injured my boss. He then revealed another weapon from his other hand and even pulled one from his mouth. Meanwhile, Shin continued searching for Lu, but was confronted by Shiba, who attacked. Shin dodged and said he hoped Lu was safe. Shiba smirked. I don't know anything about her. I just follow orders, capture, or kill you. Shin narrowed his eyes. Get out of my way. I don't have time to waste. Shiba sighed. I just want to earn 20 million and retire. I hate overtime. He disappeared and reappeared behind Shin, striking his arm. Shin tried reading Shiba's mind, but couldn't predict his attacks. Shiba punched him down. Let's play until it's time to leave. Back with Sakamoto, he dodged the boss's attacks. Shiba told him, I'll leave this to you. Sakamoto nodded. That's fine. He bid Shiba farewell. The boss suddenly struck Sakamoto, slamming him into the wall. As Shiba and Aseriji rushed away, Aseriji hesitated. Are we really leaving Sakamoto alone with that guy? Shiba remained firm. The boss isn't our target, Slur is. The boss will kill him, Aseriji warned. Shiba shook his head. I've never seen Sakamoto die. Back with Shin, after being hit again. Shiba admitted, it's hard to fight someone who can read minds. Shin replied, fighting an invisible man is even harder. Shiba grinned. Time to wrap this up. He attacked again. Shin noticed the assassin's bird's shadow and was struck by Shiba's weapon. However, Shin had smeared Shiba's clothes, allowing the assassin to lock onto him, eliminating him with a precise shot. Kashima tells Sakamoto to fight courageously instead of dodging his attacks. He urges Sakamoto to give in, believing he can easily overpower him. In response, Sakamoto asserts that this place is important to his friends, so he refuses to back down. Kashima, unfazed, reminds Sakamoto that he doesn't care about his friends and insists that his plan will revolutionize the lab. Sakamoto counters, saying Kashima should care about those around him or he won't get far. This angers Kashima, who sarcastically asks if Sakamoto considers himself wise, adding that his friends are likely already dead. He then activates a gun embedded in his throat, but Sakamoto swiftly jams a pen into its barrel, rendering it useless. He assures Kashima that his friends are not as weak as he assumes. Humiliated, Kashima reveals that the second thing he hates most after Christmas is people talking back to him. Sakamoto coolly responds that what he hates most is people who won't stop talking. Meanwhile, inside the lab, an old man, Lu, and a hostage hide behind a wall, waiting for guards to pass. They realize the guards now know they are missing from their expected location. Just as the hostage attempts to run, Lu stops him, determined to escape safely and make amends with Shin. Elsewhere, Shin is grateful that Hisuke arrived just in time, though Hisuke isn't sure if it's a compliment or sarcasm. An enemy hides behind a wall, trying to figure out where the sniper Hisuke came from. He believes he can take Hisuke down if he gets close enough, unaware that Hisuke is a master marksman. Sensing his opponent's location, Hisuke fires a sniper shot. The bullet ricochets off a steel wall and grazes Saba's cheek. Saba then turns invisible and flees. Shin immediately gives chase, while Hisuke remains unfazed. He doesn't need to see Saba, he can hear him. Hisuke continues using ricochet shots, but Saba dodges them all. Suddenly, Hisuke stops hearing footsteps, and Shin loses track of Saba. A moment later, Shin spots Saba one floor above Hisuke and warns him, but it's too late. Hisuke initially assumes Saba will be an easy target while stationary, but he's wrong. Saba charges at him, throws a rod, and brutally injures him. Standing over Hisuke, Saba clarifies that he doesn't have an invisibility superpower. His suit grants the ability, turning anything he holds invisible as well. Despite his injuries, Hisuke quickly formulates a plan. He fires another shot, ricocheting it off a wall and injuring Saba's shoulder. Saba dramatically complains, telling Hisuke he nearly took his arm off. Shin and Hisuke initially believe him, but Shin senses danger. Before Hisuke can react, Saba regenerates his arm, grabs a knife, and stabs Hisuke, taking him down. Mocking Hisuke, Saba questions why he would fight for his friends when he gains nothing from it. He advises Hisuke that he should have just stayed home and begins walking away. However, Hisuke, still conscious, explains that his friends made him believe in his abilities as a top-tier sniper, and he's determined to prove them right. Hearing this, Saba turns back, ready to finish him off. Summoning all his strength, Hisuke fires one last shot and warns Shin to take over the fight. At first, it seems the bullet missed, and even Saba thinks so, until the water alarm above him shatters. Water pours over Saba, revealing his position and rendering his invisibility useless. Seizing the opportunity, Shin rushes in and knocks Saba out with a single kick. After the battle, Hisuke thanks Shin for understanding his plan, but Shin is frustrated. Deciphering Hisuke's thoughts is nearly impossible. Meanwhile, in the underground subway station, Kashima and Sakamoto continue their fight. Kashima reveals that he has rigged the place with a self-destruct device, and in 20 minutes, the entire building will collapse with everyone inside. However, this news doesn't faze Sakamoto at all. He thinks 20 minutes is too long, and says he only needs 5 minutes to handle Kashima. Kashima mocks Sakamoto's physique, criticizing the weight he has gained. He boasts about being in peak physical condition, and even asks if Sakamoto thinks he is the pinnacle of a human being. He then reveals that 70% of his body is modified with heavy weaponry, an odd concept if one really thinks about it. Confident in his superiority, Kashima believes Sakamoto stands no chance. But Sakamoto smirks and reveals his own weapons. The confidence on Kashima's face fades when he sees Sakamoto pull out a mechanical pencil and a half-priced flyer. Kashima, now amused, charges at him with full force. However, Sakamoto swiftly dodges and flicks a piece of lead from the mechanical pencil, taking out Kashima's left eye. Before Kashima can react, Sakamoto throws something at him, blinding him completely. He then knocks Kashima into a wall, remarking that only a third-rate assassin relies entirely on their weapons. Furious, Kashima retorts that if that's the case, Sakamoto must be even low-ranked since he still hasn't defeated him. Sakamoto then asks, "Are you immortal?" Kashima doesn't know the answer himself. All he knows is that he cannot be defeated. A flashback shows his master placing a cross over his mouth, instructing him to follow orders no matter what. Kashima states that he is willing to do anything for his master. Just then, a subway train approaches. Kashima quickly fires a grappling hook, attaching it to the train while tying Sakamoto to it before jumping on top. But Sakamoto remains unbothered as the train drags him along the tracks. When he's had enough, Sakamoto casually stands up, uses the flyer to cut the rope, and yanks Kashima off the train, sending him crashing into a wall. On the other side, another subway train is coming. The conductor, bored with his routine, hopes something interesting happens today. His wish is granted when two full-grown men come crashing through the wall and land inside his train. Kashima takes a moment to catch his breath, finally acknowledging Sakamoto's skill. He realizes that Sakamoto isn't just strong, he's using his surroundings to his advantage. Now he understands why his master values Sakamoto so highly. However, he suddenly loses sight of him, wondering if Sakamoto has disappeared. In reality, Sakamoto is standing right beside him, silently waiting for him to finish his thoughts. Once Kashima is done thinking, Sakamoto brutally kicks him, making him realize just how fast he truly is. Sakamoto warns Kashima that since he claims to be immortal, he won't be holding back anymore. Suddenly, Kashima experiences a flashback. He recalls a time when he was helpless in the middle of a crowd. He had once eliminated people who were tormenting a stray cat. His only wish is to eradicate injustice in the world. He even sees himself as a vigilante, but society doesn't understand him, or so he believes. Then, the people in his flashbacks start collapsing one by one, and a mysterious man slowly walks past them. His eyes radiate an overwhelming aura as he approaches Kashima. The man tells him that he understands his pain and agrees that the world needs to be fixed. However, to achieve that, one must be willing to commit necessary evil. Kashima, overwhelmed with emotions, pours out his frustration, but the man calmly assures him, "I accept you completely." Back in the present, Kashima tells Sakamoto that he must work hard to fulfill his master's dream. But before the fight continues, the train comes to a stop. An elderly woman walks in, looking for a seat. Without hesitation, Sakamoto grabs Kashima and throws him off the bench, making way for the old lady. As the train resumes its journey, Sakamoto drags Kashima into a private room. Then, he proceeds to give him a proper beating. Completely helpless, Kashima struggles to keep up. Sakamoto is just too fast. As the train reaches the next stop, Sakamoto continues dragging Kashima all over the train. Frustrated, Kashima finally decides he's had enough. He activates a gun from his stomach and fires at Sakamoto, blasting him onto another train. Thinking he has finally gotten rid of Sakamoto, Kashima starts rambling to himself, planning to change into proper attire before meeting his master. However, Sakamoto reappears beside him, once again silently waiting for him to finish his thoughts. The two engage in combat again, but Kashima grows more frustrated. How is it possible that someone like Sakamoto, who has no grand goals, keeps beating him? Sakamoto, on the other hand, has no idea what Kashima is talking about. The only thing he's sure of is he doesn't want Kashima anywhere near his family. Summoning all his strength, Sakamoto lands a devastating punch, launching Kashima out of the train and onto the platform. With Kashima finally dealt with, Sakamoto receives a call from Shin. He informs Shin that he has taken down their leader and asks about Lu. Shin responds that he's on his way and warns that the enemies have triggered a self-destruct sequence in the building. Since Sakamoto is already aware, he urges Shin to hurry. Only 15 minutes remain. Meanwhile, Lu and the others are trying to escape, but she finds herself in danger as rubble falls towards her. At the last moment, Shin arrives just in time, pushing her to safety. However, the way they land creates an awkward situation, and they quickly separate as soon as Hisuke arrives, hoping to avoid any misunderstandings. Suddenly, Lu bursts into tears, apologizing to Shin for her harsh words earlier. Shin, however, is getting irritated as she keeps snorting and crying all over him. After she calms down, he also apologizes for his earlier behavior. Soon, an old man arrives and Shin immediately recognizes him, showing familiarity. After a brief reunion, Shin asks the old man if he has a map of the building so they can evacuate the survivors. Although the old man doesn't have a physical map, he has memorized the entire layout and begins drawing it on the floor. Now, the real challenge begins, finding a way to get everyone out safely. Shin activates his ability, listening to the voices of people trapped inside, their cries for help. After a few moments, he pinpoints the survivor's location and marks it on the map. He quickly assigns Lu and Hisuke to handle the people on that floor, while he and the old man continues searching for more survivors. Along the way, the old man watches Shin in action, genuinely happy to see him using his abilities effectively. Shin, however, credits the old man and his research for helping him reach this point. Meanwhile, in the security room, Shishiba is looking for a new target to eliminate, while Aseriji has been assigned to slice through falling debris. As Shishiba scans the security footage, he spots Slur, but his face remains unclear due to blurry footage. However, Shishiba doesn't need more proof. Without hesitation, he smashes the monitor, declaring that messing with the order is equivalent to signing a death warrant. Back to Shin. Shin and the old man come across two enemies standing in the hallway. Shin instructs the old man to handle the one on the right while he takes on the other. However, as Shin approaches, he senses something terrifying. He sees a figure ahead, but quickly realizes this is no ordinary man. The overwhelming bloodlust paralyzes him. The figure walking towards him is none other than Kashima's master. Frozen in fear, Shin is unable to move even an inch. As the man passes by, he simply says, "Give my regards to Sakamoto." With that, he vanishes, leaving Shin shaken. Escape and aftermath. Shin finally makes it out of the lab, where the scientists reassure him that the lab's destruction is insignificant. They reveal that all their research is stored in their minds. Soon after, the old man approaches Sakamoto and his team, expressing his gratitude for what they've done for Shin. He hopes they will continue to take care of him. Lu confidently assures him that Shin's safety is not something to worry about. Later, the team gathers at Sakamoto's house for dinner. As they enjoy their meal, Lu and Shin get into their usual bickering. However, the constant arguing becomes too much for Sakamoto. Shin, using his ability, suddenly senses an intense bloodlust coming from Sakamoto, and that's when he knows he should probably shut up. Shin turned to Sakamoto and asked, "Why did you do that?" Sakamoto replied, "Because you two are fools who never learn from your mistakes." Shin admitted he couldn't move properly due to exhaustion from the lab battle, while Lu complained that the pieces of meat were too heavy. Shin pointed out that if someone attacked them now, they wouldn't be able to fight back. Later, Sakamoto read in the newspaper about a place called the Spring of Relaxation and decided they should go. This made the little girl very happy. Shin told Sakamoto he couldn't go inside because he was too fatigued to use his full power. Sakamoto reassured him that this place would restore his strength and that warriors often came here for that purpose. Sakamoto approached a staff member, informed him of their group size, and requested towels. The staff member looked at Sakamoto closely, thinking he seemed familiar. As he handed over the towels, he secretly checked a photo and suddenly realized this was the Sakamoto, the legendary assassin. Nervous, the staff member quickly hid the photo and instead praised Sakamoto, acting excited to meet such a great fighter at his family's bathhouse. He handed over the towels and told them to enjoy their time. Shin and Sakamoto changed clothes and entered the bath, unaware that the staff member was secretly plotting against them. He saw this as the perfect chance to eliminate Sakamoto, who was unarmed and vulnerable. As Shin and Sakamoto moved to another area of the bath, the staff member followed them, thinking this was the moment to strike. He had already set traps in place. Shin, unaware of the danger, mentioned that pressing a button would increase the water flow for extra comfort. However, as soon as he pressed it, the staff member activated his device, launching Shin high into the air. He slipped on soap, crashed into the wall, and started bleeding. Watching this, the staff member was impressed, thinking this force could kill anyone, no matter their weight. However, when he looked for Sakamoto, he saw him calmly holding onto the edge of the pool, completely unharmed. This infuriated him. He tried increasing the water pressure, but Sakamoto still wasn't affected. Sakamoto left the pool and told Shin to head to the steam room. The staff member watched, thinking this will be the perfect place to finish them off quickly. Inside, Shin immediately felt the extreme heat and poured water on the hot stones to increase the steam. The staff member waited to press a button and attack. But instead of weakening Sakamoto, the steam only made him stronger. Shin turned to Sakamoto, realizing this place feels just like our training grounds. The staff member, now furious, saw Sakamoto completely unaffected by the heat. Sakamoto picked up Shin and threw her into the cold water pool to cool down. Realizing their next move, the staff member froze the pool, hoping to trap and kill them. However, Sakamoto remained unaffected. Shin, on the other hand, was completely frozen. They moved on to the waterfall pool, where the staff member increased the water pressure, injuring Shin but not moving Sakamoto. This drove him mad with frustration. Sakamoto carried the exhausted Shin out and placed her on a chair. The staff member, now angry beyond reason, said he was sure this was Sakamoto because he simply couldn't kill him. Sakamoto then played table tennis, moving so fast that the staff member recalled his past. His father had once told him to take care of the family business, but he insisted on becoming a professional assassin. His father told him he wasn't cut out for it. Taro, now fully aware that killing Sakamoto wasn't an option, was approached by two men who mocked him for working at his family's bathhouse instead of going abroad. One of them, a bald man, punched Taro, causing him to fall and bleed. Stepping on his back, he insulted him, saying he belonged in bathhouses. Taro told him not to insult his father's bathhouse. The bald man called it a dump. Without hesitation, Sakamoto threw a table tennis ball at the bald man, knocking him down. The bald man's companion ran to check on him, then grabbed Taro, demanding to know what he had done. Sakamoto, completely unfazed, threw an ice cream stick at the second man, sending him flying into a drink cooler. He then picked up the stick and casually tossed it into the trash. Taro, shocked, admitted he had wanted to kill Sakamoto. However, Sakamoto simply told him, "Your bathhouse is great. I'll be back." After Sakamoto and the others left, Taro called his father and declared that he would take over the family business, quitting assassination for good. He finally realized it wasn't for him. Later, they stopped at a store. Shin, still exhausted from the public baths, complained. They then headed to a restaurant and continued eating. Lu approached Shin and offered him 2 drinks, 1 cola and 1 mixed drink, asking him to choose without reading her mind. Shin randomly picked one and immediately spat it out. It was the wrong choice. Lu smirked and told him he'd have to pay for the dish since he chose wrong, which angered Shin. As they ate, Lu mentioned how nice family restaurants were. Shin replied that they were everywhere. Lu then revealed that she had never been to one before since she always had a private chef. Shin, realizing he had forgotten about her background, said, "Right, you're the mafia boss's daughter." He then asked if she missed her friends. Lu admitted she did but wanted to continue her peaceful life as it was much better. Shin understood and ordered another meal, but before they could eat, a group of men pointed guns at Sakamoto and Shin. One of them fired a shot at Sakamoto, who caught the bullet with a fork and slammed the attacker onto the table. Shin knocked out another man with a single hit. A waitress calmly approached Sakamoto and asked what he wanted to drink. He casually replied, "Watermelon juice." One of the downed men on the table mocked Sakamoto for ordering such a drink at his age. Suddenly, Lu recognized one of the attackers and called him Wuong. Wuong greeted her, saying it had been a long time. Sakamoto, curious, asked Lu if he was her brother. Lu shook her head. "No, just a member of the organization," she explained. Wuong sat next to Shin and told Lu that since the incident, the mafia had no leader and asked her to return and take charge. He told her she shouldn't lower herself by hanging out with barbarians. Lu firmly refused, stating that she had no interest in returning to the mafia life. She said someone else could lead instead. Wuong suddenly started bleeding heavily and collapsed onto Lu. Sakamoto, confused, asked what was wrong with him. Shin approached Lu, telling her not to cry and wiped the blood from her face. Lu revealed that Wuong had been following her for a while, acting strangely. Meanwhile, Wuong, now regaining consciousness, silently thought that Lu noticing him was a good thing. Shin, reading his thoughts, muttered, "This guy is truly crazy." Lu firmly told Wuong she wasn't coming back and that she now worked at Sakamoto's store. Wuong smirked and thought to himself that Sakamoto was the obstacle keeping Lu from returning. Shin, sensing his thoughts, asked, "So what now? You gonna make a move?" Wuong replied, "I'm not foolish enough to attack unarmed." He took a step back. Shin asked why he had stepped back, to which Sakamoto casually responded, "It's more comfortable." Wuong then declared that they would fight for Lu and the mafia's future. Shin laughed, saying, "Keep dreaming. Your death will come faster than your victory." Wuong, however, proposed a deal. If Sakamoto won, he would reveal who put the bounty on his head. Shin, surprised, asked if Wuong really knew. Wuong smirked and told them not to underestimate the mafia's intelligence. Shin and Sakamoto sat in silence, unconvinced. But before they could refuse, Lu stepped forward and agreed. Shin warned her, "If we lose, you'll have to return to the mafia." Lu, unfazed, shrugged and said it didn't matter. She was part of the Sakamoto family now, and she should help however she could. Wuong led them to a strange place, and upon arrival, he told them they couldn't enter in those clothes. After changing, they entered what Wuong called a secret club, a gathering place for the underworld. He then handed them bags full of money, saying, "Whoever earns the most money wins. We'll meet again in 2 hours." Shin, shocked at the gambling setup, asked what they were supposed to do. Sakamoto reassured him, saying, "We have you, a mind reader. This should be easy." Shin nodded, realizing he could read the thoughts of both the players and the dealer, making it almost impossible to lose. Sakamoto admitted, "I have no idea how this game works though." Lu explained that Luan and Tang weren't good at fighting, but they were highly intelligent and had honed their skills in strategy and finance. She then mentioned that the game required a different kind of talent. As they walked over to check on Tang, they discovered that he had already doubled his money. Tang confidently told them he would return the winnings quickly. Sakamoto, amused, replied, "I'll do my best to keep you around."